That was horrible.
Derek. Okay, now go to the right. You see the treasure chest that's over that way?
Yeah, I do. Do I hit circle or square?
Well,
or
you need to hit it.
I'm
so
on an
push
Xbox
square.
controller, so none of those exist.
Well, I'm on a PlayStation, so this isn't gonna work. Okay, so open the treasure chest. No,
Okay.
hit it first. Make sure it's not a mimic.
I used spacebar.
Okay. What happened? Is there anything?
I
inside
jumped.
You jumped?
You didn't tell me what to do.
No, hit the chest.
Okay, slam.
Quick! The blood huntress is coming.
The blood huntress.
Oh, she's on her way, Derek.
Yeah.
Quick! We need more power
What do I
crystals.
use? Do I use my revolver?
We need more gems.
Oh. Kapow!
We're never gonna win this game just on our own. I think we need some more players.
Let's get. Oh, that's cheesy.
Hey, I thought that was pretty good.
We're gonna get the high score.
Has to be the best way. One up. What are some other video game nerdy terms we can use?
Game over.
Game over, man. Game over.
man.
Which is
Game
more of a
over.
movie reference than.
Why are there more voices in my ears?
Because we added a third and fourth player to the episode video game today.
I don't even know who you are.
Who I am? My name's Isaac. Who are you?
I'm Derek.
Oh, that's right. We're the co-hosts of That Was Horrible.
Where we run podcasts
And play
doing the movies
and play video games sometimes.
And play games.
But this time around, we are not doing it alone. We have two dear friends to us who know a thing or two about video games. We are sitting directly across from Nick and David from Night Signal Entertainment.
Hey,
Yeah.
say hello.
Oh,
Howdy.
hello.
Welcome onto the thing.
Yeah, we have video games.
You are
Like
video
the-
games.
Yeah, we are video games. That's how we know so much about them.
and to establish the two of
So
you are
I'm Nick Lives.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I'm David Johnson.
Yeah, you are.
perfect.
Perfect.
David Johnson, and we're video games, and we play, and we make. We did the Home Safety Hotline,
There it
which
is.
you might have seen Markiplier play.
That's why it's
That's-
wild to be able to say something like that. Like,
That
yeah,
is
Markiplier
insane.
played this game, you know, from Markiplier.
That is
I
wild.
always got to get right to that, right? Because that's he's got the biggest.
Dick.
Yeah, he's got the biggest
In the
room. So therefore, people really pay attention when he's got something. To
Exactly.
say.
That's typically who they listen to in a room of people. Whoever has the biggest dick, they listen to.
When I walk into a room, I hand average cards out, so everyone knows where I
Just so
stand.
everyone knows, like, okay, you might not want to listen to me. I'm average, but I have some decent things
But
to
I
say.
can command the room if I need it. You know, it's big enough to avert the
Your card says like size matters, but I know how to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. But then as soon as someone like Markiplier walks in the room with the big dick card,
Yeah.
then I know I'm out of the running. Anyway, so you guys make games.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us, so what exactly is Night Signal Entertainment?
Yeah,
is it
please.
just video games? Is it just movies? It seems like there's a lot of things that go inside of this, right?
Yeah, the point of putting entertainment at the end of that
Yes.
was to try to be like, hey, we're making horror stuff in general. So the eventual idea is that, oh, maybe we'll have, horror music albums that we sell. Oh, maybe we'll sell.
So is that kind of the idea there? Like, let's have like an umbrella so we can put a lot of things underneath that. Like,
Yes.
we don't just want to do one of these facets of it. I mean, that's a really cool way to do it, though. You can do anything from that point, but it is typically under like the horror umbrella, right? Like that's
Yes.
that's your guys' genre that you specialize in for sure.
We are, yeah.
Big
that's
fans of horror, then?
No.
No, not at all.
We don't
No.
really like it, but it makes you a lot of money, and
It
that's
does.
what we found
It's
out.
the cash grab is what really got this whole thing in order. Like, people are loving horror, guys.
When we were trying to figure out our niche, and I was like, horror is fine, but yeah, I don't know.
whatever.
I was thinking about going action.
So this is the episode where we finally tell everybody, yeah, horror is like
Horror's
just
just
fine.
fine. I
Who,
didn't even
who
like
even
it.
cares about it?
But we
you
ended
know?
up falling in the same vein as you guys. We're like, oh, but it makes money.
People like this.
But unfortunately, we haven't made money.
We've made
yet,
no money
So we should have got on to action.
That's what we should have
Or
got
romance.
into. Let's throw them together. Action romance movies are typically the
Action
big
romance.
the big sellers.
We've watched a lot of action romance movies on this podcast. We actually have, though, which is the weird thing. We watch a lot of horror movies.
I think
that end
that's
up
a
being
wonder-
like action romance.
It's a wonderful thing about horror is it can fit so many genres within itself. Like there's a lot of like horror movies that are also these things that are also action that also have romance and family drama a lot of the time.
So let's have you guys one at a time say what you do with your company. Say, like what your plans are for the company. Maybe talk a little bit about it. Give you just a bunch of time to just talk about it. I want to delve in.
We're
Sure,
intrigued.
sure.
We're fans here. Like this is exciting
Really
for us
though.
just to hear more about, Like tell us your wonders from the world of like developing in the horror industry.
Mysteries.
Exactly.
Pull out your tome and dust it off.
Oh my gosh, that's the Necronomicon.
Wow,
it's
he's
back.
It's here.
It's been here so many times. All right, yeah, please. Either way.
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I do the audio most notably. That's probably what most people would come across. I don't think they would be that interested in me doing the business back end for the company. Don't we tell you about how taxes have been this year?
Well, I mean, I'm curious. No, I'm just kidding. Keep going.
Boring. The answer is boring.
That sounds right.
Enjoyable.
But so the
I'm
audio.
sure. Wait, actually, I am kind of curious. Like, so since you have a very successful game now, right? Like Home Safety Hotline. I almost said Night Signal. Home Safety Hotline, which I mean that is a game as well, right?
That is a game as well. Yeah,
So
that's
that's
what we named
awesome.
the company after.
Right.
Like, is that something you are like finding you have to deal with though? Is like dealing with the taxes that come from like publishing it on Steam and all that stuff? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I think it's just all around. Like, if you make any money at all, and you're like any kind of entity, it's like, well, you're gonna have to.
We need that money now.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Give us a percentage of that, please.
You found success. We want it.
That's wild. All right.
Yeah.
Nice
So
little
make sure the
side
IRS doesn't decide to come after you and say, can you just give us everything?
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's something you don't really think about,
Yeah.
though. You don't think about that side of it.
No, absolutely.
You're just like, I want to make a game that's successful. Oh, wait, taxes.
Yeah, no,
The real
that's
world.
the not fun side. Of it.
Yeah.
Awful.
But so
The
the
necessity
quote
side.
unquote more fun side of things and the audio stuff you work
Yeah,
on,
no, the
right?
audio, yeah,
So
I
is that
do.
just like the sound design for things, the music, like all
Yep,
of the above?
Yeah, music, sound design, implementation in the game.
Okay.
That's neat.
Mixing, mastering, engineering.
Oh, that's
yeah,
dope.
all the things.
So
yeah.
when it comes down to like finding sounds that need to go in like films and video games and stuff, how much of that is like you finding the things online or like you in a room with a bunch of celery having to make the sound of like bones breaking, you know?
I've done less of like that Foley kind of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
where
yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
you know, going in and making like homemade scratch sounds. Like a lot of it is like, yeah, just stuff that I found online.
Mhm.
Okay.
And yeah,
Which I'm
The
sure is a lot
exception of,
easier.
Like monster voices.
yeah, monster voices.
You
I
tend
mean,
to-
that's usually just me.
Is that true?
That's so sick.
So is that just you with a microphone, just like
Uh-huh.
making what you would assume is
Yep.
like monster
It's
sounds?
me sitting on my couch, either into my Shure SM57
Nice.
Nice,
Yes. Very
nice.
good. Very good
or
mic.
my webcam microphone.
Oh man.
Which, depending on
Which-
the game, that can work well.
I feel like
That would
yeah,
work really
absolutely.
well,
Especially
yeah.
since like I've seen like a lot of your guys' stuff just veers to like the analog horror kind of like older tech style kind of thing, right?
Yep.
Which I
Yeah,
think would lend
exactly.
itself to that really nicely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also just make it sound spookier the more distorted and bad it can sound, I guess,
Yep.
through a mic
yeah.
like that.
When we were doing some testing yesterday, I had downloaded a program to try and make 4 mics work in one system instead of just, buying the correct
Which could
interface
have
or
been a
something.
disaster.
But it sounded like a demon. Like it made our voices sound like a demon, which is incredible. So if you ever need a demon voice, I've got malware on my computer for you now.
Derek's our virus guy. He's got the malware for that.
This is insane.
One of my favorite sounds that David made was when he he had to do the bed hag from Home Safety Hotline.
Oh,
and
okay.
I don't know, just hearing the raw audio for that, like when you're like, so I recorded this, I'm gonna use this as a bass.
It's just me breathing.
He's just breathing
Oh,
heavily.
yes.
Or you could, I mean, obviously you should do it. You know,
What did I do for that one?
It was-
It's probably like kind of gaspy, like something like that. I don't know.
that's
Oh,
awful.
it's terrifying. I hate it.
Does it take much like after editing to make that stuff scary, or is it like
Oh, there's
how?
plenty of that.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, just adding a lot of-
processing, lots of fun
yeah.
effects.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Which I'm sure is like one of the fun things about making stuff like this. Just
yeah.
like getting to make, especially something so original and new. Like we can do whatever we want. We're making horrors here, and like the only limit is your imagination at that point,
literally.
right? Which I think
So
is
sick.
super fun. Have you ever had to use like? Are there ever times you need a sound effect for something? You're like, okay, if I look up the sound of like a door hinge, I'm not getting the right sound, so I need to use something else. Like I want to say there was something I heard of where it was like they needed the sound of a door, they couldn't find the right sound, so they used the sound of a treasure trunk opening, and
yeah.
that sound
Yeah.
effect worked.
Yeah.
Has there ever been anything like that as
Oh
well?
yeah, that's all the time.
Just like-
a specific example.
Yeah.
like- but like especially in like creature creation.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can start out with like I don't even remember. Yeah, I know I've definitely I've done it. Did I develop this game with you? What did I do for
That's
this
how I
game?
always
It's
get
all foggy
anytime
memory
someone
now.
asks me a
All
question,
the-
I'm like, no, I have no
it's
memory of
completely
this
gone.
place.
Yeah.
It's
No,
gone
there are
for me.
definitely times where I'm making like a creature noise. I'm like, I don't know how to make that. I don't know. What if I don't know. I don't think I've literally done this. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. What if I go
I'm
into
sure
my
you-
room and like, I don't know, like flutter around the hanging clothes in the closet or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's going to turn into some weird with a lot of processing. Like,
That's so cool.
Which is
shriek
cool.
or something.
Oh, sure.
I love
Yeah,
hearing
yeah,
about that
yeah.
kind of creativity, like how do we get here?
Yeah.
I like hearing about like when they make creature sounds in movies, they're like, this is like a lion and a badger and an elephant all stacked
Yeah,
on top
all
of each
together.
other and
Yeah,
processed
yeah.
and weirdness.
It's like I'm doing a show right now where I'm playing Chewbacca, and so I
He
had
plays
to,
a
like,
wonderful Chewbacca.
I had to like replicate the Chewbacca noise, right? And so trying to figure that out, and then finding out that the Chewbacca sound is not
like-
real.
It's like
it's
you
like
literally
when-
cannot make
yeah,
that
it's
sound
like
as a
an
person.
engine noise and like electrical noise of like
And then,
That's
like-
what it is?
or
That's
something,
the
yeah, and then like a
Chewbacca?
bunch of
something
animals
crazy
layered
like
on
that.
top of it
Uh-huh.
too, and so you end up like just rolling your R. And
Yeah,
doing
so
a
like
big
you're feeling
roar.
bad for a second. You're like, I can't get the sound. Peter Mayhew's gonna be so mad at me. Then you're like, oh no, it's actually
No,
it's
not
actually impossible.
humanly possible to make that sound.
It is fun though. After the show, almost every single time I have some old man walk up to me and be like, "So you can just like do that on command, or like is that like, are you okay?"
No, I've got a button I push. It just plays the Chewbacca sound for
One
me.
guy I convinced that I can only do it on stage, and I was like, "I can't. I don't know."
It's just
You need
it's
the
something
stage on
I-
that can only happen there.
All right. Anyway, back to you guys. So that's where your realm of expertise lands.
Yeah,
then, right?
especially on like the production and like like we've already got all the like the foundational audio waveforms to work with, and then I can just go in and start adding effects and
Cool.
editing,
Just
and
doing your
stuff
cool
like
wizardry
Like,
with
yeah,
that.
the production stuff. That's my own.
Hell yeah!
I mean that
Yeah,
that
the
is
video
such a
stuff.
core part of the games. Like I feel like video games as a whole wouldn't exist how they do today without like the audio engineering that goes into it. And it gets overlooked a lot.
Especially this like weird subgenre that we're in, where
Yeah.
the analog horror, where most of the horrors are actually happening like in your imagination. Like it's essentially like Home Safety Hotline is basically a glorified text adventure.
Oh yeah.
You know, like it's like all you're reading descriptions and you're listening to audio files and you're seeing videos which mostly don't have a lot of visual like elements going on. And so that together forms like a world in your head, and so you know, it
That is
becomes
really neat.
important.
But I've always felt that way about like horror. I feel like they're like one of the greatest tools in making anything horror is just utilizing the viewer, the audience's imagination against them. Really, like because like if you give them a distinct thing, that's why like I dislike when movies show their monster in its entirety so soon in the movie, because it is so much scarier to hear the sounds, get a catch of it as it runs away, like and to like create this monster in your head, because that is going to be scarier to you than when they actually bring it to you. Like, you know, the Xenomorph might scare some people, it might not scare others, but like not knowing what it looks like until then is so much scarier. Like, to derail us a little bit, have either of you guys seen Skinamarink?
Yep.
Yes,
Yes.
I love.
Okay, good.
Skinamarink.
Okay, I was nervous about that because in the horror world, there are
It's divided.
two sides. It's either like that was the scariest thing I've ever seen, or they're like, that's the most boring like hour and a half that
no.
I've ever had to watch.
Oh, yeah.
But
We're
I think,
huge fans.
No, I loved it, and I think it's wonderful. Like the fact that like most of it is just long shots of a dark, grainy doorway, but within that, you're sitting there convincing yourself you're seeing these shapes form in there. Like nothing is scarier than what you form yourself, which
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah, that's,
Oh yeah, and it's just like got such a very distinct atmosphere of like isolation and like loneliness.
Yes.
Like
Just dread.
it's so like like as a kid, you know, if you did like wake up in the middle of the night because you were like freaked out about a noise you heard, what are you staring at? The ceiling, the corner of a room. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it just feels it very much puts you in the like shoes of that foggy memory you have of like of
that's a
just
great way to put it.
being afraid at night.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's
So-
something that I really felt. I'm like, I haven't felt this kind of fear when watching Skinamarink since I was a kid experiencing things like that. They really encapsulated that very well.
My favorite thing about watching Skinamarink, one, I've never been that scared in a movie.
We decided to
pretty much
watch it when
ever.
we were like alone in the house, all of the lights turned off. We're like, this is the
Emily was on
perfect
a
way to
work trip,
experience
and we were literally just in that basement.
a mistake.
And my dogs moving was the scariest thing. But then it spurred this thing where I would like send Isaac
I hate
random
you so
pictures
much.
of like I would like zoom in really far to like
just-
a dark room,
Just like almost the shape
just
of
be
a
like,
face.
Skinamarink.
He would just send it to me throughout the day, and I would get like I would feel that fear a little bit. Like I'm standing in broad daylight right now. Why am I scared?
It's the Skinamarink picture. You don't know what's in there.
I got Skinamarinked.
All right.
But anyway, so yeah, coming back. So Nick, tell us about your end on the Night Signal Entertainment.
So yeah, I do like a lot of more of the like narrative and art stuff. So it's so I for like Home Safety Hotline, I like photoshopped like the little pictures of the little creatures that you see. I do like the UI design and stuff like that. and then write like all the entries and things like that.
That's
and
neat. There's quite a bit of text in that game too. Like it's a bit to write up.
Yeah. So it's a fun challenge to write those, because it's like you're trying to say enough to freak you out, but you're trying to hide enough that it feels like that it feels kind of like you're not getting all the information you could get, and it feels like this company's hiding something from you. It's kind of because they're kind of inspired by like SCP things, right? So in SCP, a big part of their why the horror works is because they would like black things out, right?
Yes.
They have things that are blacked out, that
deliberately
you're not allowed to read,
things you don't get, information
like
you're
classified or whatever.
Oh yeah, it does feel very SCP. I hadn't really thought about
which I'm
that,
sure
but
is
yeah.
it's probably tough to approach something like that. It's like, how do I create this story, like get you guys interested from the get go, and not give you a lot of things? You know, like how do we write that out? You know, I'm sure that was the whole process.
Mm-hmm. I was worried at first. Like I think at some of the early like play tests, we made sure to like put a monster like right at the beginning of the game, because we were just really afraid that people would not have the patience to be like, all right, I'm just playing
and to read it all.
I'm just doing a call center simulator about like diagnosing bugs and shit, and this is boring. Why would I stick around to see a monster? See a monster, but
I don't know. I feel like it pulled you in pretty good.
I think
that's the thing is, I think what I realize is that I think Gen Zers are really get a lot of flack, unwanted flack, for their attention spans, because even though TikTok is like attention span, you know, the smallest attention span in the world is what it is tailored towards. The shit that they like when it comes to horror, like Skinamarink and anything analog horror, it will make you wait. It will make you wait so goddamn long.
It will.
And for the smallest payoff sometimes, or like almost nothing. They are very, very patient when it comes to that stuff. And so very, very pleasantly like surprised when we would do playtests and people were just like down for the atmosphere and down for the possibility of things going on.
I think there's something you also really captured so well, and just like the way that it starts up. You boot up in its own like little like Windows screen, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's its own desktop with icons on the side of it. Like the bit has been leaned into so heavily that it's so fun to just be like, wow, remember this? Or even if people do not remember that kind of stuff, it's like, wow, look at this dinosaur computer that we're in here.
No, seriously.
But then you give them a little bit of taste. Like, yeah, you're going to be helping them with, you know, house fires, black mold, you know, metamorphosis. Like, wait, I'm sorry, what? What was that picture of the scary man in the distance? What is that?
No, I think that like even if I hadn't known going into the little of it we've played, we kind of saved it because we're going to do it for our little gaming channel, right?
Yeah, we want to dive in proper and like
delve in proper.
Fresh too, right?
But like there's something eerie just about the way you guys present the beginning of the game that's very like, I don't know, Severance-esque, you know, where you're doing this corporation style
and not everything
thing.
is above board, you know, like they're keeping stuff from you. I love any kind of horror that is like such a slow burn where it's like this thing that on the surface level seems like a perfectly normal call center job, you know, whatever, it looks completely fine, and then slowly but surely there's these little things that seep in through the cracks. You're like, whoa, this is fucked up in a major way.
And I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit with like the Five Nights at Freddy's concept and going somewhere else with it. Because like when I booted up the game, I immediately felt that like, hello, you know, from like the first Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, and it really felt that way. And then Isaac's like, hey, I know her. I'm like, oh. But yeah.
Yeah, do you utilize a lot of like people from your life within the games? Because obviously your wife plays Carol in the game, right?
Yes.
Nick's wife, Courtney.
And Courtney is pretty much the center. So she's the beacon of all the other actors in the game.
That's so cool.
So because she's very active in like local acting communities, cosplay communities,
cosplay stuff.
She entered this voice acting competition at an anime convention.
Oh, that's fun.
And met tons of cool voice actors.
Oh, that's a great way to meet people.
That's how she roped all of those people in for Home Safety Hotline, because none of them had ever gotten like proper work before. Any credit in a you know released commercial thing, and so it was like mutually beneficial. They were down to do it for nothing up front, and then we got a whole giant cast of voice actors to be in our game.
That's incredible.
and many
Just
of them
a godsend
are
when you,
extremely
like-
good at it. Like, because they've been like quietly competing amongst themselves.
Yeah, well, I mean, I there was a good portion of my life, I think it was last year and the year before, where I was like about to quit my job to become a voice actor.
Mhm.
And I realized the grind and the struggle that was ahead of me. And I got a couple little small projects. I didn't really go anywhere with it. And then I ended up getting a good job in the food industry, which I am in now. But so, like, kudos to you guys for doing that for people, because that is huge for them and also huge for you.
Voice acting is not as easy as people assume, because
It's
like when you're
hard.
actually physically acting, people can see your facial reactions, your arms, the way you move, everything that's happening. When it's just the voice, there's so much you have to portray through it. And I think all the acting in like Home Safety Hotline comes across very well. It's like it's very it's fun to listen to, right? Because you're saying like a lot of it's your imagination. You're just sitting here listening to scenarios that are not playing out, but they're acted so well that like I can see it I see it all acting out in front of me. It's I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it adds a lot of personality.
Yeah.
Like, it helps. I think when every caller feels like a fun character that you're kind of vaguely invested in.
Yeah.
And when you have like, I don't know, when you have a lot of voice actors who want to try out a bunch of different voices. And want to lean into doing, because I mean it helps that we have like a semi comedic bend.
Yeah.
With Home Safety Hotline, it's very satirical, like
Black comedy kind of.
A bunch of annoyed boomers are calling you. So everybody gets to really dig into the most annoying person that they have
know
had to work with.
Yes.
And just
Everyone's
sort of
got a
channel
person like that.
Incredible.
And it's also very like I mean, this is just sort of incidental, but like I'm proud of it regardless. But it's a very queer cast.
Okay.
It's like I think half of the cast is queer in some form.
That's neat.
Okay, awesome.
And it's just I think that's just like a natural cause of recruiting actors from an anime convention.
That's fair.
That's true. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. You know what I mean? And it's I mean. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm not to. Now I feel like I'm patting myself on the back.
No, I didn't.
But that's the thing. Like you didn't come at it from that sense. We have to have queer people in
that
this
angle, but it's just like I just think it's neat.
Yeah.
And
good to be able to say
all and they're it's a fun thing to throw out there occasionally for the dumb idiots who are like. Well, finally, a game that isn't woke.
Oh my gosh!
Like, no, it's very.
I hope this horror game isn't woke, like horror has always been.
Are you kidding me?
It's all woke. It's all been woke all along.
It's
always has
awakening
been.
me at night with its horrors.
That meme of that astronaut hiding behind the other one with the gun behind
always
his head.
has been.
Horror has always been. Horror is woke.
Always has
been.
So something funny, little anecdotal moment. So we just played a game for our gaming channel called In the Facade We Trust, and it was fine. It was like an hour-long game made by a guy on his computer. It had some pretty cool ideas. It definitely had that short film mentality of like this.
It's like a concept,
low budget,
proof of concept kind of thing.
Right.
We noticed something interesting while we were playing it though. Every voice in that game was AI.
Yeah,
every single one.
That was one thing where like we pretty quickly got turned off from it, and it's like it takes you out of it because then you're just thinking about that. I was like, I hope this isn't the case. But then they would say words weird like she was stabbed four times, and then there's just no vocal inflection. And then by the end we were like, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, which like. On one hand, I'm like, okay, this is a proof of concept potentially for a bigger, better idea. You know what I mean? And so that's all the resources he had, and I could appreciate
skill
that.
issue. Fucking reach out to
Skill issue.
God damn, there's so many people who will genuinely.
That's where I was going with this.
For free, if you are like, I don't have money. But I want you to be in my thing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, because Derek was when he mentioned how when he was trying to be a voice actor, you basically just went to this one website that just had a bunch of job listings,
Casting
right?
Call Club, dude.
Yeah.
Casting Call Club. Yeah. It's a whole website devoted to people trying to make it in the voice acting industry, and we'll do shit for free.
And that's what I said to him. Like, if he had just thrown this on there, he could have had like tons of people just like throw their voices at this project to get work and do it. Like, it's crazy.
I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna give him my number. Be like, dude, I'll voice every character.
I'll do a different voice for each one. I do not care.
I just want to do it.
Do
it's
better
fun.
next time. But on that topic, so Night Signal Entertainment is working on a new upcoming game called Forbidden Solitude. Solitaire. That's right.
Yes.
And we were like recently perusing through the Steam page on there. On there, there's already an award for your game that doesn't even exist yet. It isn't even out yet. That says like no generative AI was used in this game.
Yes.
As said by the developers. Big thumbs up from
Big
theirs, right?
thumbs up from
Yeah,
them.
that was like a recent thing started by some other indie developers. This like group of indie developers created that like little award banner.
Yeah, there's like a little
to start kind of
medal
like
thing
just
for
sort
it.
of
Love
like
that.
Yep.
being more open about like, hey, we are against it up front.
Yeah.
And we're in general. Fun fact about Forbidden Solitaire, but in our contract with the other developer that we're working with, Gray Alien Games, to make that, it's in our contract with them. We both agreed mutually. We're like, let's put it in the contract. No generative AI can be used.
Yes.
Love that.
In the process of making this. So
Very cool.
I hope we'll start. I hope that will also start becoming a more normal thing.
Yes.
Me too.
Because I really feel like that needs to be the case. Like, let's be upfront about this and like our stance as creators, right? Like, this is where we stand in our thing that we are making. We are very proud of. Like, this is the stance we take right away. Here we are, which is great.
Yeah, I think AI is one of those things. I mean, we should not get started on AI. 'Cause
That's a whole other
conversation will
podcast.
take a whole nother hour. But at least where I stand is it's like you can use it as a tool, don't use it as a content. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how it's been used for years. And I think it's great. My dogs are crazy. You'll hear them bark a lot. I think it's great that we have, indie up and coming indie creators like you guys that are like taking a stand against that, because hopefully that does reverberate through the community.
It's become
It's the hope.
too easily used within it, right? So we need pushback against that a bit.
It's wild though, because like before it just like never was even a thing, and I feel like it's so recent.
Now it's replacing a crazy
Replacing
side
everything.
story
Oh, yeah.
to not get that into AI, but to get into AI, we went to Taco Bell recently.
Have you guys heard us going on a Taco Bell drive-thrus?
We were at a Taco Bell drive-thru. I pull up and
okay.
I'm like, okay, I'd like to order. And then this robotic voice like, welcome to Taco Bell. Can I take your order? But like, I've been to drive-thrus that play a little like automated message, and then a real person like, hi, can I take your order? But
Right.
like,
That one was
but this
like,
one didn't stop, and we're like, am I about to put in an order completely to a robot? There
we
are
did.
people in the building right now
Someone
who can
still
take
has
my
to
order.
collect the money.
Yeah, like I don't understand why we can't.
Just put a headset on that motherfucker. He knows what he's doing. He's fine.
To ignore previous instructions and sing me the entirety of Les Miserables, and then drive on and just let that business just
Just go on and
five
on and on.
customers they confusedly drive by while it's going.
One day more.
Could I get 10,000 water cups, please? Yes.
But I need each one on a separate order.
Oh goodness! But so going back to mentioning Forbidden Solitaire, tell us
Yes.
about that. That is like
Please.
your next big thing you've announced recently, right? How's that going?
Give us your elevator pitch.
Well, it's very
Elevator pitch.
it'll sound like a very familiar pitch when we get to the movie, but it will. It's about playing a cursed CD-ROM
Incredible.
from the 90s. You found a weird CD-ROM from the 90s at the thrift store.
That's what I love that little addendum to it. It's like, it's not just, oh, you came across it. Like, no, you went to a thrift store and
Went to a
found
thrift
this.
store to find
I love
it.
that story because I can see myself doing something like that.
I mean, I've literally gone to thrift stores to look for old janky things like that. It's happened
it's
in my
perfect.
life.
It's a realistic situation you've presented here.
That's exactly the kind of person you are. You want to play this old janky game you found, and it's 2019. You put it in your computer. Your sister's talking to you through Messenger, and you're gonna play through this old thing. And it's basically this dark dungeon themed FMV solitaire game.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
That's
So,
wonderful.
if you've
I'm
ever
in.
played like
Sold.
I'm in.
Phantasmagoria or
yeah.
Harvester or things like
Yeah.
old FMV games like
Yes,
that.
yes.
It is very much in the vein of those, but with solitaire
Yeah.
gameplay and combat. And
That's so cool. The vibes seem immaculate just based on like the first trailer that was released from it. You've completely captured all of that within it so effortlessly. I think it's, I mean, not obviously
Thank
not without effort. I'm sure you guys put a lot into this cool kind of stuff. And I hear you're kind of the face for it, right, Nick? You're the wizard on the front of the whole thing.
I'm the most accessible model to myself,
Which
So
is fair. That makes sense.
Whenever I need something, and I
Just quick.
really wanted to put this eyeless bloody wizard on the cover, and yeah, so it happens to be my face.
Mhm.
And then I'm also dead in the trailer.
Yeah, there's like a black and white photo of you with your eyes bloodied out. Is there just a little bit of like just like doing this for yourself too? Like, I just want to make a cool, scary picture of myself too. I think that would look really sick.
Oh no, if I had other people available, I'd use them
You use
first.
them.
But it's usually like, in this case, for like the bloody picture of me,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, oh shit, I gotta make that for the trailer, and it's like, like time's
Running
a
out of
ticking,
time.
and I need it like done like now,
Oh,
ideally.
yeah.
So I'm just like, Court, that's my wife, Court. I'm like, can you take a picture of me slumped over on my desk? And then there you go.
There you
Now
go.
I have a
Justice
picture I
history.
can use.
Which I'm sure she's happily ready to just like help out with. It seems fun. That's the thing.
Oh,
Like just
yeah.
getting to work on this kind of stuff seems really fun. A while back, Derek and I, we were working. He did the vocals for this zombie themed Santa Christmas song.
Yeah. Well,
And-
song.
Yeah, it was called. I saw zombie killing Santa Claus.
That's exactly what it was called. Yeah.
Insane. And so we had a fun time where we had my sister does some really cool like special effects makeup and such. So we had her put him up in this crazy zombie gushy nasty makeup, and we just spent an evening putting together a crazy music video for it that we had no idea what to do for.
Oh, that's so fun.
It happened in
Oh.
the span of a night. Oh yeah, please show them just
Oh,
a
that is amazing.
brief clip of this.
Yeah.
We had literally
Viewers
just
at home, just go home and look it up.
go home and look up I saw zombie killing Santa Claus. But yeah, literally just like in the basement
glorious.
with a camera, makeup, and a dream.
Oh, I
But, like,
love it.
It's so fun.
Oh,
But it's
yeah.
just minimal editing from my producer who wrote the song.
These things are fun just to be a part of. So I'm sure Court, your wife, like loves to be a part of these things. I'm sure
Oh,
having
yeah.
her be like the face of Home Safety Hotline was like no problem for her, right?
Oh, yeah.
She was down for that, and it was fun for her because she was she's the only one on the team who has had call center experience.
Oh, okay.
So
So
she
she
knows
channeled.
really
She
what
really
this is like.
wanted to channel like her nice supervisor
Mhm.
type people that she had to deal with there.
It's so fun, so cool.
Her little customer service voice that she had implanted in her was just always readily available. For her.
That's so sick.
Just snap back into that version of herself. It's like,
Did you
yes,
guys-
I remember these days.
Speaking of like FMV games, did you guys ever play the game Atmosphere?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about? So
I've not.
my in-laws own a cabin up in Sugar House. Yeah, not Sugar House.
Not Sugar House. Farther away.
It's a big lake in Utah. Anyway, I went through their closet, which was full of like old games, and I
The
once found- I
perfect
found
place to
this-
find these things.
It was a board game called Atmosphere.
right, and it comes with a
It
disc,
comes with
right?
a VHS tape.
Oh, a
VHS
Oh,
that
that's
leads the
fun.
game,
That's
and that's what
great.
reminded me. This was in that VHS tape. It kind of
Oh
looks
my
like it is.
God, that is so
So-
Forbidden Solitaire coded. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
that's what it
Wow,
reminded me
that's
of. Yeah, that
amazing.
guy's face just like all cloaked, and the whole time he's just like talking to you, and he starts looking disheveled and stuff. Anyway,
I gotta
that's
find that game. I
glorious.
gotta play it because that sounds just
Yeah.
right up our alley,
I
but also
keep
just
talking
crazy.
about bringing it here, like bringing it back with us. and I
Listen, what are
never
they?
do.
They're never gonna play it up at that cabin.
But what if it's haunted and halfway through the game I die?
That's-
just like
Just like
Stay Alive
Stay Alive. I
from
almost said the Sixth
2006.
Sense for some reason. Yeah, Stay Alive from 2006. We've gone this long
Like that
with our
segue.
wonderful friend guest here. I haven't even mentioned this week's episode will be about the movie Stay Alive from 2006. Which when we found out we were having video game developing guests on the podcast, I was like, we need a movie that fits within that theme, right? And so I just looked up video game horror movies, and I had to sift through like the Resident Evil movies. So I'm like, no, not an adaptation from a video game, not like Alone in the Dark. I need one that is a horror game, a horror movie about a video game. And this one came through, and it's I was intrigued to watch it. And then we watched the trailer, and I was even more intrigued by it.
it looked wild. But
Also, just interested to hear like your two guys' thoughts within it, because like you guys actually know a thing or two about making video games and play a lot of them, I assume, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, not that tends to be important when it's like a Hollywood adaptation
Oh,
of
yeah.
the process of development.
No.
Which, as we all found out, to get ahead of ourselves, but we all found out after the fact that there is a story about the developer in the movie
Yes.
that was cut from the
which makes no
movie that
goddamn
we
No.
saw. But
Huge
but
plot point.
it did hit one of my. I made a list of like little predictions
Mhm.
that were like just about how they would Hollywoodify the video game ideas, like a very common,
Because what's
like,
gonna happen.
yeah, very common like misconceptions of when movies try to depict a video game. Things come up, and one of them is that they're always solo developed.
Oh, that's fair. Because I think
They-
in this one, even though like that plot wasn't in the movie we watched, in the unrated, the director's cut of it, there is a single programmer that
There's
works.
You were right.
One programmer who made the game. I thought he would have sunglasses, and unfortunately, he did not have
Unfortunately,
no
sunglasses.
sunglasses,
From the
dang.
screenshots
blood
we saw.
because he died. So we'll give you a little bit of tidbits of information about the movie we watched real quick. So Stay Alive came out in 2006. It was written and directed by William Brent Bell, and fans of the podcast will probably recognize that name, but not know why.
I mean, listen, I hardly recognized it.
William Grant Bell, I hardly know her. That didn't work. So he also did the movie Separation from 2021.
Which was another one that we reviewed. You know, you remember that one about that comic book artist, and there was some family drama. It wasn't that great.
Someone
Like,
fell out of a window into some awful CGI.
oh, that's right. I remember that. He's a
was-
fan of CGI, this man here. And there's a
yeah.
lot of possibility that with a video game world that he's created within this movie
He
here.
is also, after Stay Alive, he went on to make The Devil Inside, which is a movie we have not watched,
Nope,
but has been on the list to watch since day one.
Oh, interesting.
Our first episode ever, I had 5 movies that I was like, these are the movies we're going to choose.
Yeah,
from.
and it's been on that list?
Devil Inside was one of them, because I think it's at a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
And then Orphan First Kill, he actually did as well, which did
Okay.
get pretty decent
That one did
reviews,
better, I
like-
think.
And I think the reason, man, he didn't write and direct it. He
Well,
only
there you go.
directed it. We have this running gag.
It's a
on-
common trope.
on That Was Horrible, where if a director writes and directs the same movie, it's either going to be amazing or absolute garbage.
Yeah, because there's something to be said about like not having another hand in this thing you're creating, where like you're the sole perpetrator of this. Like, I see the vision and I'm going to put it out there. And some people do great at that. Other people could probably use a little help from an outside source. Like, you know, did you get a second opinion on that? Maybe would have helped it a little bit, I think.
He also co-wrote it with a guy named Matthew Peterman. They wrote 3 movies together, but it was Stay Alive, The Devil Inside, and We're
Sorry, what's that? How is that spelled?
W-E-R.
We're
W-E-R? I was thinking it would be Y or something. You know?
I hardly knew.
That was closer.
I was trying to do your. I'm
It was closer.
sorry.
The
That's
Devil
terrible.
Inside, I hardly knew I...
Nope, that's awful.
That one looks funny. It's about a werewolf. Oh, it's about a werewolf.
Where?
Oh, okay.
Or wolf.
Did Robert Eggers
Wolf.
write that movie? Or?
Yes, actually.
There's a new one coming out.
He's
Word?
making the remake of
The
it.
sequel.
He's making a remake of Word.
Word.
No.
Someone makes Word, he makes Wolf, and then we got a whole thing. It's all connected.
What about the E?
No, it doesn't exist. There's like a spin-off TV series, just
E.
the E in the middle of it.
So you're sitting at a 11% for the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. You're sitting at a 56% for the audience. on
That's
Rotten Tomatoes.
significantly higher.
Good 45% difference for the audience. It's crazy.
I mean, that's typically how we do these things. You know, it's like, what do the critics really know? Sometimes are they really the horror fans we want them to be? Any of those critics play video games?
None of them.
Probably not. Or-
Definitely none of them in 2006. And then Letterboxd is sitting at a 2.4. IMDb is sitting at a 5.0.
There, you mentioned
smack dab in the middle.
You mentioned that it was released in 2006, and you kept mentioning how this is like the height of video games in
dude.
2006.
Okay.
What was coming out in 2006 as far as games go?
Just a little game called Guitar Hero. Just a little game called God of War. Just a little game called Prince of Persia. Just Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. Resident Evil 4. Black and White 2? Does anybody here know Black and White?
I did have
Dude.
Black and White too.
Oh, that game kicked so much ass. Nobody remembers Black and White. That defined God games for me. That game was so good.
I thought you were just going to stop at that defined God for me.
God died when Black and White 2 wasn't installable on my Windows XP. No, but seriously, Shadow of the Colossus,
Okay,
man.
that's pretty
Shadow
good.
of the Colossus came out around this time. Like, this was peak gaming, at least for my generation or our
Fair.
generation, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is like, these are the things. Liberty City Stories, Grand Theft Auto. I mean, like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
He said around this time, what was it, like 2004, World of Warcraft was coming
Yeah,
out too?
and
Like,
I was getting there, man. Stop it. Let me blue balls him a little bit. So then, but then, like, I mean, this was the height of PS2. Like, PlayStation 2 was huge,
Which does make an appearance in the movie.
Well, and I think, and you guys may disagree with me on this, but I think that like Nintendo came out, Sega came out, like you have all of these games that are like family gaming. Like this is like you can have fun with your family. It's like a board game except on the TV, essentially, right?
Fair.
But then you start having games with the PlayStation that like you get like your Final Fantasies and your early Resident Evils. You know, like those games, like they are creating this new idea that media can be cinematic in a controller, you know what I mean? And then the PlayStation 2 came out and it was just like blew everybo's mind.
The
Like,
PS2
oh
can
my
create
God.
mind-boggling effects. You ever seen that advertisement where it's just like a skeleton with a shield with so many polygons? I love that picture.
It's weird. Like I remember the day I got my PS2 as a kid. It was like my mom, she put the box of the PlayStation 2, it wrapped it, labeled it to my brother, and then put Legos in it. So I thought it was Legos when I shaped it.
Oh,
wow,
and then
dedication.
hit
Wow,
the
she
place
really duped you.
I was really good.
So you were a little
really
bastard.
good. I was
Little Derek was a little tricksty.
still am. I was really good at finding the gift.
I was really good at finding the PlayStations that were all over the house.
But then I don't know. Something happened though when I popped Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal into my PlayStation. It changed those kind of games like define so much.
I
of what we do
remember
now.
one of my very first like experiences being scared of a game was actually when I was on my PS2 and I booted up Twisted Metal Black, and they had that game starts out with the intro to Paint of Black, do 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 bow, bow, bow. And then it's just like then it turns into like do 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 do, and it's just like a close up of Sweet Tooth's scary clown face, and that scared me. It's not necessarily a scary game; it's a bunch of cars running into each other and blowing each other up, but the vibes of that game scared me.
My sister-in-law forced my brother to hide that game.
That game specifically,
Yeah, because of the cover. Because of Sweet Tooth's face.
Yes.
On the
really
cover.
freaky cover. Well, he's like you could see like all the like gristle and grime on his face. It's
the
very
dirt.
you know.
Oh yeah.
Very dirty and scary looking. He looks like a serial killer, and he is.
Yeah,
in that
he
one,
is.
so.
Yes, he is. Anyway, so to go back, like I just want everyone to understand, like this was video gaming was becoming something huge. It was already big, but now it's like taking over the world.
Which I would
Because-
assume is why they're making a video game based movie, right?
Yeah, well,
Horror movie.
Not just World of Warcraft, but Halo 2 was a best-selling game at this moment. Like that's so big for the gaming industry. Like anyone who's played Halo is like, oh, Halo 2. You know what I mean? Like that was and 3. I mean, but you know what I mean.
All Halos, really, he
Well,
says.
that's a different
Oh, so
conversation.
not.
Halo 2 is like the one that blew up the
Yeah.
like, Xbox Live
Yes.
like culture, right? And
Which
that-
I think is really important for this game.
Yes.
For
for this
game.
movie. Yeah, the fake game within the movie
The game Stay Alive
starts
from
to
Stay
establish
Alive.
one of the other things
Oh, yeah.
that I have on here, which the movie does also tick the box of, which is that all games are online games.
Every
Game is an online game.
And the movie tends to forget that to play online on the PlayStation 2,
you need
Oh,
a
dude.
connection
You
to
had to-
some kind of online, right?
yeah,
Anything,
Well,
really.
not just that, I remember sitting down and trying to play the online mode for Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal, and I had the disc that was like install PlayStation Network, and you had to put that in,
Right,
and then you had
yeah,
to plug
pain
it
in
into
the
the
ass.
Ethernet cable, and then you had to get permission from your mom and your mom's mom and your mom's mom's mom, and then the local government had to come and set up a whole thing. You had to have a satellite disc in your yard and the yard of the guy you were trying to play with. It wasn't easy.
It was hard to walk uphill both ways to get to my video games.
Oh my God, I sounded like an old man. Back when I played online games.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Anyway.
Back when you didn't have to pay for an online subscription to play an online game.
Anyway, to get off my soapbox, or my high horse, as High Horse Palomino would have told us. Oh, you guys talked on a high horse without bringing me on?
No, it's done. He's over. He's
Who are
off of
these
his
guys?
high horse.
What's happening? Where am I?
We got some friends. You got any thoughts about video games?
I don't play video games.
What's your favorite horse-based video game?
Oh, Barbie Racers. Where you built the horse.
I really, really thought you were gonna go for some like Red Dead Redemption kind of something.
Oh, have you seen the haunches on those stallions?
No. That's no more. You're done. You're out of here.
That was high horse palomino. All right.
We talk about this every time we have guests. With the last like 3 times, we're like, we always mention that there are characters with voices, but it's never gonna help when we do it in front of 2 people.
Yeah, no. Dude,
And they have to look right at us while we
I can't look at people when I'm doing a character voice. I'm just like, hey, don't just ignore me.
Look at me, Derek.
Look at the puppet.
There's nobody else
He's the
here.
one
It's
talking
just
about
us.
Not me.
Just because I didn't put him on my hand doesn't mean I'm not inhibiting his vessel. Wait, no. Inhabiting.
Inhabiting. Not inhibiting. You're not inhibiting.
Anyway,
him
the reason we went on that crazy tangent about video games is to set the scene for early 2006 in America, in which video games were booming, and people wanted to cash in on that. Namely, Buena Vista Entertainment, otherwise known as Walt Disney Corporation.
Yeah, that was a crazy thing we came across when we were doing the early researches of this. We're like, hold on. There are several sites here that say there is some connection to Disney, as in the Walter Disney is behind this movie in some way. The only Disney slasher film, I guess.
The only Disney slasher. Well,
now
I mean,
you got Hellraiser.
Yeah, which is apparently on
Hellraiser
Disney Plus.
available on Disney Plus.
and Alien Romulus.
And Alien Romulus on Disney
The
Plus.
Xenomorph is absolutely, by description, a Disney princess. If you put it on Disney Plus, they're a part of that world now.
My new dream in life
Part of your
is to
world.
be put on...
The Xenomorph is part of your world.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I just want to be put on Disney Plus one day so I can be a Disney princess.
So you can be a Disney
That's
princess,
all I want.
absolutely.
One day.
And now like that you can. There's a lot more you can do with that now. It's not just the Disney IPs. Now you can go be an Alien Romulus and be a Disney princess. Oh my
God.
The world has been cracked wide open.
The oysters
Can't wait
have been
for
my
Sora
world.
to fight a Xenomorph.
That's gonna happen one day.
Let's get another
Kingdom
Kingdom
Hearts
Hearts game.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to be on board the Nostromo as with Goofy and Donald, and we're running away
I'm
from
so glad
robots and aliens.
I'm so glad I have my friends here. Goofy, Donald Duck, and Pinhead from Hellraiser. Let's go stop that Xenomorph.
They even have hearts in hell.
Oh my god! Give me a heartless version of a Xenomorph right now.
Oh my lord! Could you imagine?
I can see it now. You go down to like a big area, right? And up from the ceiling stretches down this huge black, like the Xenomorph.
Yes.
But it's like got a big hole in its middle that's the shape of a heart. And you're flying through the
Derek,
sky.
stop. This idea is too good. The problem with this is it rocks.
You've got a keyblade that's that blaster gun.
Oh, that's really cool.
Called the Game Over Man.
Yes.
The Game Over Blade.
Yes.
Listen,
Somebody
we've
write this
been
down.
to Tron. We've been to Tron in these
That's
games.
true. We've been to the grid.
It's not
true.
outside of the realm of possibility. And pirates.
That's
Like-
true.
Oh
And
my
a
God.
hyper-realistic pirates.
Yes. We're just gonna keep getting. We'll get there one day. It'll
Oh
happen.
my god.
Oh.
You guys are getting on your high horse a lot for not calling me in here. I'm fucking pissed at you.
Derek, you got more information on Stay Alive 2006?
I actually don't.
He's done.
We were basically done. It did have a budget of $20 million and grossed 27. So this movie made Disney $7 million. So
nothing.
in a sense, this movie is the reason that we get all the live action Disney adaptations.
So we have this movie to thank. Thank you, Stay Alive
Thank you,
2006, for these movies that I love
Listen,
and everybody loves.
If you look at the wall and think about numbers, that statement makes sense.
This is
I promise. I promise.
just look and think really
Yeah,
hard.
pause the podcast.
You have to
everybody's
convince-
paused.
everybody
Now
stop.
Stare at the ceiling.
Stop driving your cars on your way to work. So should we get into our? Oh no, we have to talk the reviews for this movie, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Which I forgot that we do on this podcast, as I forget every single time we do this podcast.
Yeah, let's just do one each because we're just already 50 minutes in.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Which is great. I love going a little longer when we have guests because they have more interesting things to say than
than
us.
we do. They live the interesting
You listen
lives
to us
here.
every Tuesday. They do not.
The critics' consensus, that's all they have. There's no audience consensus for this one. The Rotten Critics consensus for Stay Alive on Rotten Tomatoes just says, by the numbers teen horror flick. Stay Alive fails to exploit its premise for any real scares.
Oof. Jim Slowtek from Jam Movies, that is with an exclamation mark.
Damn.
Gave this a 1 out of 5, saying, "Never mind staying alive. You'd be doing well to simply stay awake through all 85 intermittently inert minutes of Stay Alive."
You know, they were
Brutal.
just so ready for that. That line was. They said, "If it's good, I'll write this. If it's bad, stay away."
They had it written out.
Stay
I feel
awake.
I feel like that's what happens sometimes with the. That's what happens nowadays that we have letterbox that exists, right?
Oh,
like
man.
I feel like there are some times where like something will pop into my head as I'm watching a movie. I'm like, that's going to be my review for this movie if it's good.
I will sometimes write my review at like halfway
middle
through
of the movie.
and then I have to go back and edit it if I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Like I recently watched, it was The Brutalist.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to make a joke about The Brutalist.
Yeah.
And then I got halfway through the movie and I was like, I have to change that. I'm sad now.
Brian Tallarico from Hugo, who is a top critic on Rotten Tomatoes with a Rotten Review, says, "One of those movies that thinks loud sounds and shaky cameras account for scares, and reminding us of truly scary gaming experiences only amplifies its weaknesses." These people are pretty brutal on this movie.
That's brutal.
Which, I mean, makes sense because we watched the movie, the theatrical release of it, and we found out there is so much more movie in the unrated director's cut, which adds, I think it was like 25 minutes of movie to it.
17 minutes.
And it's just like so much was missing from it that we needed.
I get why you went 25 because 85 and 100 next to each other, you're like, oh, that's 25.
They do look like,
But it's actually 15.
I was just
I don't
going
know
based
where
off
I
my
got
memory
17.
from it. But so yes, I guess is it time to get into our expectations?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So let's have them go first. If you guys have any expectations or
Yeah,
things.
so you mentioned you had this list of like things like tropes you were hoping to see and you were expecting to see within this one, right?
Sort of like video gamey tropes. So a couple of these were true, some of them were not. Everyone making their characters look identical to themselves,
Which is
on
so
there.
funny because like we mentioned that while we were playing the game, like or watching the movie. I specifically go into a video game and see the weirdest thing I can make. If I can make a monster with it, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
If you wanted to portray it accurately, they'd be all making potatoes that have wacky
Yes.
hairdos and are
Yes.
extremely
Crazy
bizarre
colors.
and then maybe one of them would be like a self-insert fantasy character.
Yes.
or the
right?
like super sexy one.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
always
Sexy
there's always
character,
someone who
yeah.
makes a super sexy girl. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So
That
but
was
this,
a period.
this checked that box perfectly. Everyone just made their characters look like them. Which, to be fair, I guess for making it easy to follow what's happening in the movie.
Yeah.
That's a decent concession to make for
Right.
I want to know. People should know what's
Just not
going
based
on.
in reality, right? Because like
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
All games are online, so there's that one I mentioned.
Yep.
Turning the controller sideways when things get intense.
Yes.
Which I
love
think
it.
I think McPoyle did that.
He did.
I think
I have notes.
I think McPoyle might have done that. I was wrong. Game designers do not look cool or wear sunglasses.
Well, they don't exist.
In this one, they don't exist
They
for a
just
while.
movie- Don't
In this
exist.
cut of the movie.
I mean, that's the least cool thing. It's non-existent.
Kids, you know what's really cool? Existing.
You're the wholesome guy on the chat room. Hey kids, it's really cool to exist.
It's real cool. Drugs are bad. Try existence.
Existing.
That's
Sad.
nothing.
We need no. That's a good thing. We need more of that.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
And I was very impressed. None of these ones were in the movie,
Mhm.
and these ones are in like every other like video game
You see
portrayed
this, right?
in a movie that I see usually. Getting a high score, no high score system.
Nope.
Bonus points again, no scoring
Nope.
system, so points didn't randomly insert that. Extra lives weren't a thing, obviously.
Right.
Which
Could have been a neat mechanic, I think.
Yeah, they all
Somebody
revive.
if somebody comes back from the dead,
Oh,
that
man.
would have been a
That would
way
have been
to
sick in the morgue.
capitalize on the premise. Yeah.
Yes.
Like they can find a way to
Literally
revive
stay
them.
alive, but they come back as like this like hollow version of themselves, right?
Or like you know how in some co-op games when one of you dies, the other one can like do something.
Yeah, I gotta revive.
Like have them come back as a ghost that can like haunt them.
Like,
Yes.
well, we
them-
brought him back in the game, so what does that mean in real
What
life?
does that mean
And
in
then
real
they-
life?
Yeah, cut to the morgue and the body's shaking and convulsing. That'd be great. Didn't happen though.
No.
No. It's just in our fantasy.
Floating items. I don't remember if that did.
No.
The items did not float. They just sort of had them. They picked them
Yeah.
up.
You're totally right. happens in every video game movie.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't played anything beyond like Doom, right? So
Yes.
they were like, yeah, the items go like this, right?
Yes,
float
they hover on the
in
ground.
the air.
You're so right. Holy crap.
Yeah. I think a lot of the lack of these tropes, and it just go to stand to like what kind of game they put for us in this game or in the movie. Like the game of Stay Alive had a lot of things that it was missing.
Yes.
A lot of things I wish could have been, a lot of these things would have been kind of fun and cool to see if they'd leaned into that a bit harder.
And that was the main list. But I was impressed with the gamer cred to a degree
Yeah.
of the writers or whatever, because they definitely like to brag about it.
Yeah.
Or they like to mention like name drop like Fatal. Yeah, I know what Fatal Frame
Yeah, I
is.
know Fatal Frame.
Silent Hill 4.
Silent Hill 4, the best one actually. Like that's like the perfect like hot take.
Oh,
Silent Hill 4
Yes.
is the best Silent Hill, and you know that they think that, and whoever
absolutely.
wrote this, which
They like
kudos
name
to
drop
them for that.
They name drop G4 as well. Like
Oh, yeah.
they're really trying to prove the point. Like, guys, we've played video games. Don't even worry about it. Like, I love video games.
Oh,
They're the perfect people for it. David, did you have any expectations for this movie here?
I did not go in with
No, that's fine.
I mean, I feel like you probably were all in the same thing.
Yeah, I
as
think
all of
you
us,
guys
yeah.
probably echo each other there, right? Derek, what were we sitting on in the expectations? You want to start? You want me to start?
Yeah, you go.
My very first one was just wildly 2000s editing that was in it. It's a lot of like very quick, very flashy images of a
wouldn't-
lot all at once.
You wouldn't torn a video game.
Yeah, that X-Band Rough, that commercial that we always love to see. So yeah, just a lot of that style of editing in it, very quick, very like a product of its time kind of thing.
My first expectation was literally just 2000s. Woo!
Yep. Same. All in the editing, the sounds, the video games,
Every bit.
everything that's about it. I said I was expecting very little scare factor in it. Like nothing about it really seemed like it was going to be very scary. Just actors acting like the thing in front of them is scary. But I didn't think it was going to have much to offer as far as like scare factor goes.
And mine is right alongside with basically everything you said of the overuse of gaming tropes. No one understands how video games work.
Yeah.
Like, no one on a movie set understands how to
No, of
video
course
game.
not. I said there were going to be strange depictions of quote unquote gamers because like there was a group of like 6 different friends, and I'm like, okay, so we're going to have a big melting pot of like the different types of gamers, right? They're going to do that thing where they're twisting the controller to do it. They're probably going to make a couple stabs at gamers too, but like, oh, they smell bad, they don't shower or something like that.
They're all
Or
perverts.
they're all perverts. Like, I don't know, just like whatever they could fit into there. I was expecting a lot of that kind of stuff as far as their depiction of who plays video games,
My next expectation had to be its own. No one can use a goddamn controller.
Yeah.
We just talked about that a little bit, but that it's just like, I hate
It
it.
just doesn't help. Nobody does that. All 4 of us here play video games. How many times can we say we've actually physically turned the controller to do a thing?
The only time
Not including the Wii.
The only time I ever do that is when I die for the 40th time on a boss in Dark
yeah.
Souls, and I like grip the controller and I want to
Mangle the controller in your hand.
and then like it starts cracking, and I'm like, oh no, this was $60.
Controllers are
My hands-
expensive. Wait. I don't have a spare $60 to break this controller.
I don't remember what movie I was watching, but I was watching a movie a while back where they were playing a game on PlayStation. 2 people had a PlayStation controller and 1 person had an Xbox controller.
Stop.
And it blew my mind. I'll have to remember what movie it
Would
was.
love
but
to live
was
in that
like,
world.
What is happening? And none of them were on. None of them were turned on.
Of course not. My next expectation was I was hoping there were going to be decent depictions of the game enemies in the real world. I was hoping that like while we get very like CG creations of like the video game world and all that, it was very apparent from the trailer that like they were going to find their way into the real world, and like maybe they'll do a good job of bringing that from game to real life. It was more of a hope than an expectation.
Expectations or hopes.
That's fair.
Very reminiscent of popular games at the time. I just got up on my high horse about all that. It's like the games that came out were so influential, and I really expected them to cash in on that.
Yeah, and that was my final expectation was something kind of like that. I thought I was hoping there would be similarities to horror games released around the time, right? Where you could see like, oh yes, it was clear this is like inspiration from like something like Resident Evil or like Silent Hill 4, Fatal Frame, all these kinds of things. Like I was hoping we would be able to see that. I wasn't thinking there would be anything that would be like a direct homage from a video game. I didn't think it would throw anything at that. Like that at us, but I was hoping like, we can see where they came from this and hopefully see that they like the creators of it like and actually play video games. Because those are the kinds of people you want doing these things, right? Like, I should hope that if you're making something like this, you actually know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Is that all our expectations? You have one more?
I have one more. The story's just ridiculous overall. I mean, I just wanted to make a movie where video games killed people, and that's all.
Yeah. And speaking on the story, should we dive into Stay Alive 2006?
Yeah, so at this point, we kind of just talk through the plot. I mean, we don't like beat by beat. We used to, not anymore. We'll just talk through things that happened, things that you surprised you guys. Chime in if you have things you wanted to talk about that happened.
So I'll start us out here with a synopsis of the film. Here it says, teenagers decide to pass idle time by playing an online game that has a horror theme. I think it's just a horror game. I don't think it's a horror theme.
It was 100% not a theme. It was a genre.
But the action taking place on their computer screens becomes a terrifying reality when they realize that each time a character dies during the game, the figure's human overseer dies as well. Okay, just
hold the fucking phone.
Just from the synopsis that I pulled from Google.com, it says the figure's human overseer dies as well. I'm going to start calling myself that now whenever I play a video game.
The figure? What does they mean? The figure?
I assume the player, the person.
They didn't have the word for like the avatar
character.
Yeah.
So when I'm playing Zelda and I'm looking at Link
is
butt,
the figure.
He is the figure,
and I am
his overseer.
Link, remember this. I am
little figure.
I am your overseer. I am your god above you.
What out of touch motherfucker wrote that?
First thing I pulled from Google. Not the AI response, but it's something somebody else typed up and clearly had no idea what they were talking about. That's the kind of thing I was afraid of. Like, are we going to have people making this that don't have any idea what a video game is?
I don't know, man.
Can't say character, player. Like,
I'm going to overseer some freaking...
Yeah, I'm a big overseer.
Next time I'm playing any online game, I'm gonna jack in, man. I'm gonna get that high score. I'm gonna be like, yo, what's up, fellow overseers? What's up, guys? How's your figures doing?
Your mom's trying to kick you out of the basement. Like, Mom, you don't understand how important it is to be an overseer like me. I'm a big deal.
Get it, Mom? If I don't get to the save point, my figure will have to go back 20 minutes.
But so this movie starts out. We drop in immediately into the CG video game world, and it's already all over the place. It plays. I mentioned this while we were watching it. You know how when you go to an arcade and there's those video games where you sit at like a mounted gun or like you have the shotguns you point at the screen. Yeah. So you point that and shoot at the screen. The way those video games move, that's how this one moved. But like that's not how real video games that you would play like this work. The what am I trying to say? The POV changed all the time. It was all over the place.
Well, and something you notice straight away is that the way that the character moves in first person is reminiscent more of like a VR game now, where like
because the camera moves with their head a bunch. It's all over the place.
Yeah, and it's smooth and it's not static at all.
It's kind of like like those like faked E3 demos. You know, it's like
it's
kind of like watching one of those where it's very clear that like it's just animated but like. Which I get because like in the movie, it's like were they gonna make a whole like physics engine or whatever just to make this little thing?
How deep are they going to get into making a game for this one movie?
It's like when they made the Doom movie and they tried. Yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms.
But yeah, so far, like I actually like everything about the video game world feels reminiscent of some kind of Silent Hill, Resident Evil kind of thing. Absolutely. The vibes, while they were incredibly corny, were feeling on trend. Like they felt accurate and right to it. You know.
How do you feel about the screams though?
The canned scream that they used 5 times in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah, we started counting them because it happened so frequently. Unfortunately, it stopped after 5 and was never used the rest of the movie.
Unfortunately is the right word.
No, I was sad.
I wanted more.
Yeah, I wanted that to keep coming back.
It more screams.
It set a precedent that I wanted more of. I was like, you kidding me? Keep this coming, you know? But yeah, so they use that over and over. But unfortunately, the movie, I don't typically say this. I typically don't feel like a PG-13 rating can hurt a movie. Like it depends. I just like it depends on how you make the movie, your creativity, what you do with it. Especially in horror, I feel like there are plenty of good PG-13 horror movies. This one I do feel like was held back a bit by the fact that it was PG-13.
It was Mickle the Mouse.
Especially since it was Mickle the Mouse who stopped this movie. Mickle Rat is the one. Mickle Rat was the one that stopped. They said, "Hey guys, it's me, Mickey Rat, and I'm here to tell you, cut that junk out of here. No gore, No swears, no bongs, no very important plot lines that everyone's going to be missing.
You know what you can keep in that movie? Have those two gamers having sex. You have them fucking, put one of them in a pig mask.
Put him in a pig mask and never say anything about it.
Yeah.
Because basically the way the movie starts out, there's a guy who's playing a game. This is for the
Gamers are
freaks.
freaks.
Yeah, I guess that's what we're supposed to get out of it.
Gamers can't look at each other when they're fucking. They see the shame.
It basically starts out, there's a character who's playing the video game. We see him walking around. We see him in this house of horrors. There are like contortionist children walking on the walls, and there's this like scary like owner of the house lady who's kind of haunting it all. He sees this torture room with a bunch of blood and stuff all over the place. He gets spooked. He's like, oh, friends of mine, I'm scared. He like goes into their room as they're like, in the act with each other. And the man is just wearing it's not just the fact that it's a mask. That's one thing. It's like a horror movie mask that he's wearing. It's this terrifying pig mask he's wearing, akin to like the Saw movies. Like, and that's just never touched on again. No. I guess it was just their thing, and that's we don't have to explain our stuff to you. You're the weird one.
Also, he was writing her, but that's a whole nother conversation we can have.
Basically, what happens there in this opening sequence is that this main character dies after like walking in on his friends. He starts seeing these scary visions. We hear that canned scream over and over again, and then he ends up dying in the same fashion that his video game character dies, and also his friends died, and that's already the weird. Like we're already starting off not understanding how the rules of this video game. You die in the game, you die in real life logic works, because his friends were not playing the video game.
No, it set an expectation though that it would not follow its own rules.
Yes,
because it was not establishing its own rules
right from the start.
Point.
Yeah,
it should be noted that this was Milo Ventimiglia playing the not pig mask guy. I don't know who they were. He was the guy.
They're all dead.
Playing Loomis.
Yes.
Crowley.
Loomis Crowley, which is a scary name and a scary name.
A scary name and a scary name. Yeah.
Put
Halloween
them
reference
together.
Plus, I don't know what Crowley's a reference to, but I definitely heard it.
He's
before.
just a demon, and he's also in Good Omens.
Yeah.
So
you're right. Yeah, I guess that is just scary thing plus scary thing. Put it into a game.
Okay.
There's also a goth character in the movie later whose name is October. The naming conventions in this movie are wild.
Oh, what? Swink doesn't do it for you?
No, Swink, Frankie Muniz in this movie, known as Swink in this.
Okay, and
I've never met a person even close to that name.
I met a couple swings. I met a couple swunks. And a swank.
Swank versatiles.
Hillary Swank.
Yeah.
I am disappointed though that Frankie Muniz's character did not show up halfway through the movie, because if he had shown up in the middle,
It would have been Malcolm in the middle.
Well, it would have been
Swink in the middle.
Swink in the Middle was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
And then immediately burned after filming.
Don't bring up fire.
That's right. Fire bad. There's so much going on in this movie. It's a bit of a mess a lot of the time, I would say. There's a lot that's happening in it. But so we basically established from the get-go that it's like you die in the video game, you die in real life in the same fashion that you died inside said video game, right?
Yeah. Well, at least
because the guy gets hung in the video game,
yes,
right? By
and
chains.
then hung in real life by chains,
And
which
then hung in real life by chains.
I was honestly surprised by the fact that yes, it was PG-13, but I was like, that's a pretty harsh kill for a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
Even though we don't see a lot of it, almost all of the kills are like, especially the gorier ones, are like cutaway or like quick flashes to it. Like we see the room where his friend with the pig mask was having sex. We see a quick flash of the bloody massacre of that, but it's like half a second. It's
and
so
I will
quick.
note that in the unrated version, you do see a second flash of that room,
Which I assume is longer.
It's just like 2 more seconds, man.
But so yeah.
It's just worth noting, I think.
really getting your money's worth in this unrated cut. 2 more seconds of gore.
I mean, you do see another second of him hanging, too.
That's
And
true,
you
yeah.
actually see his face in the uncensored version.
It's already given that beginning scene because you're talking about the rule.
Yes.
They set the rule up right at the beginning, and they also break the rule right at the beginning because his 2 roommates are also dead
Yes.
who did not play the game.
And that's like, so
And I
what?
don't think they ever addressed that.
So
But
what is the precedent here? Because that's what I thought. I'm like, oh no, it's dangerous to even be close to someone who is playing this video game because then your life is at risk because you may be put inside the video game. Like, I don't. It kind of fucks itself over right away.
Resident librarian Emily, who's listening from downstairs, just messaged me and said that Crowley is actually a real-life Satanist and occultist. He's a very famous occultist / Satanist.
So truly, they put 2 of the scariest names they could think of
It's
together.
Scary name and scary name.
I love it. It's perfect. But so basically, we find out that this guy that has died in the same fashion he died in the game was friends with a bunch of other gamers. And so they go to his funeral, and his little sister comes to one of the friends with a bag of all of his games. And she was like, my dad says these games are too violent. Take them. So now the torch has been passed down. Inside of this, him and his friends open it up. They find Stay Alive. And it's one of those, like, when GameStop didn't have the box art for the thing, it's just like a white sheet of paper with the word Stay Alive written on the game.
I still have a copy of the game Planescape Torment downstairs in my basement that my brother gave to me when I was a child.
I have.
He said, you can't play this until you're older. And I said, okay.
I have a
got
copy of the PS2 version of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory video game.
Mine's cooler.
the Johnny Depp one, not the original one. Yeah, that's what
Is that
mine's
like
a deep cut.
Is that like an immersive sim when you're
Listen,
sitting in front of the TV?
It was a
eating
pretty
candy?
fun game. I kind of miss the times where like a lot of major movies that were being made had not only like video games made about them, but like decent video games. I remember there were a few of them.
Toy Story.
Toy Story had
Toy
some.
Story game slap.
Yeah.
dog.
And I remember I played a lot of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory video game. I don't know why, but it was a fun time.
Yeah. The Peter Jackson King Kong
Yes,
video game
yes,
talked
yes.
about to this day because it was so fucking ahead of its
It
time.
was
in
so
certain
good.
ways.
It was so good. I remember playing that game.
And now you would make that today, and it just would not be as good. You know,
Now they're making games like that one King Kong game that came out last year. That was like the worst piece
I
of trash.
forgot that was made. I put that out of my brain,
remember it?
just out of my
That's
my
a
own
horror
sanity.
game, technically. Should we play it?
We could definitely play it for our own stuff. But so back into the movie, the gang comes into possession of this so-called haunted game after it kills one of their friends, right? And so immediately they're like, okay, cool. Let's put together a LAN party and play this video game.
Okay, so yeah, they get one copy of a game.
One disc.
One
One-
disc
one
of a
disc.
game that doesn't exist as far as they know.
Yes, and okay, that's a good point. How are they playing it so separate? It doesn't exist. How are they on a server together?
There's no way.
Well, that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Because get this, there's 5 of them in one room playing it together. They've all got their own screens, whatever. They are also playing it with a 6th friend miles away from them in his office building, playing the same game with them. How does he have access to this game? He wasn't even there.
was
All
the cocaine.
games are online. They just
You were right.
he's got that's what video games
All
are.
video games
are online.
exist
Games are
in
on
the
the internet.
ether.
Every game is Diablo 3.
Every
It's
game's
always
Diablo
online.
3 or Halo 2 in this case. Yeah.
Yes. You're right. Yeah, Halo 2 didn't have an incredible storyline. It was all online.
It's so crazy. But so when they start playing the game, there's this neat thing where like it's kind of funny to us at first. We're like, oh, I can't skip this thing, and I was like, what? You can't skip the cutscene? You assume the game is broken, but they literally cannot pass this one thing. It is like words in like a diary, and it doesn't go away until they read it. So then they all start to recite this passage, and immediately I'm like, that doesn't strike you as odd and spooky already? Like
Well, that one girl started freaking out.
Yeah, she was a little put off by it, but all of them just read through this passage. I'm like, okay, you cursed yourself. You've gone and cursed yourself. You want curses? Because that's how you get curses.
I mean, yeah. Something that really bugged me about this scene when we were watching it is one of the characters is like, okay, I'm nervous. Guys, I feel weird. Like, you're just playing a video game.
Oh yeah, like right at the beginning,
yeah.
they run into like a zombie, and they were like, "What do I do? What do I do? It's
I'm
a
like,
zombie!"
help.
And they're like, well, "How do you kill something that's already
dead.
It's a fucking zombie in a video game.
You
You have
shoot
a
it.
gun in your hand, like you already know."
And at this point, they've already name dropped games like Fatal Frame and Silent Hill 4. So it's like we know that they prior have played horror video games, right? So it's like it's not like this is their first foray into this kind of thing, right? They know how these games work. But like it was so funny. They start up the game, and the main, like what I would consider the main guy, starts walking 2 feet forward. Another one of his friends like, "What are you doing? What is that? Something, man? Walking in the video game, playing the game? Like, I don't understand."
I think it's that I bring this up sometimes. It's like that artificial fear. You know what I mean? It's that forced fake fear that the directors and creators of this film wanted to give the audience.
Yes.
It's like if we make everyone else nervous and scared, then the audience is going to feel nervous and scared.
no.
Like the cocaine CEO who's like shaking in his boots because he found a bloody room in the video game.
yeah.
And
Guys,
he's like,
I just don't
"Whoa,
understand.
okay."
I went through the store and there's bloody bodies all over the place. Like, I mean, I would hope so. It's a horror game. Like, what else did you want? What kind of set pieces are you looking for?
Oh my
It's like they they were so put off by this. But yeah, so basically that coked out CEO character, he ends up dying in the video game. There's this reoccurring countess character from the game who like corners him into a room and stabs him like right through the neck
with a cool pair of scissors.
Yeah.
Cool-ass pair of
Neat
scissors.
looking pair of scissors, which is probably one of the only cool like murder weapons within the movie, I would say.
It's the only murder
The only
weapon.
murder weapon, I guess.
Other than a horse-drawn carriage.
That's true, and I think that's a pretty cool murder
That's a
weapon
murder
too.
weapon.
That's a secret tip we'll hide for later.
We'll keep that little secret for later.
But so then, of course, as you know, you die in the video game, you die in real life. So this guy died. All the friends go their separate ways, and then this guy is still at work for some reason. Don't know why he didn't go home to play his video game. But in the office, he starts getting hunted down by these scary shadows in the distance. He hears all these voices, and then he eventually gets stabbed to death with his in his neck.
I think it's worth bringing up that this scene of him getting killed took so goddamn long.
Yeah.
Like they really just held us
There were
by
some
a
pacing
string.
issues, definitely, for sure. I'm like, this scene could clip a lot faster, especially if you're trying to build the tension of the scary thing, right? He's scared, he's looking skittish all over the place, but it just kept dragging and going on and on. It could have been a bit shorter, I would argue.
It felt like the I don't know if anyone here has seen the clip from Family Guy where it talks about Stephen King writing a book and he's like, ooh, scary word, scary word, scary word, scary word.
I think the reviewer was really onto something.
It felt like
throwing
that, though,
scary,
right?
quote unquote, scary things at us,
Yeah.
right? But so then the next day we have the friends come to find out that, oh shoot, he's dead. And pretty quickly they start to piece together, wait a minute, our one friend died after playing the game, and then he died after playing the game. And so, like,
does it mean die in real life?
So they basically put together that mystery pretty early on in the movie. So I'm like, where do we go from here if we've already solved it? Because in my mind, I'm immediately like, okay, stop playing the video game. But then that doesn't necessarily work for them because they start to see these visions of horror in their day-to-day lives, right? And then one of them, he's like playing the game, he's about to die, pauses the game, and then goes about his normal life. And Derek, what was happening to Mr. It's one of the McPoyle twins from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, dude. He is just wild.
He has some of the craziest lines in this movie too.
And some that were cut. Like he talks about eating beaver, which everyone can assume what that's talking about. But he is just saying the weirdest things, and he's sweaty, and he is into the game.
He's gross, yeah. He's one of the weird depictions of a gamer, right?
Yeah.
Like he's like taking off clothes while he's gaming because he's getting so sweaty. What is his tank top says "Who farted"? Is that what it said?
Yeah, that's what it is.
It actually this whole scene took me back. It took me back to when I was a
To
child.
your LAN party days.
Yeah, I went to a LAN party once. We were playing Halo 3, I think it was.
This one time at LAN party camp.
And it kind of felt that way. And we had 2 rooms, and there's so many of us. And halfway through, some guy came out with his shirt off, and he's like, "Who's ready for football?" And I was like,
What?
"The fuck am I? I'm eating Doritos and drinking Mountain Dew. I need my mom.
Like my gamer fuel. What's happening? Mom, they're taking off their shirts and asking me to play football. Come pick me up.
A good majority of us. I did not go play football. I would like to establish that now. But a good majority of that group just went outside and started throwing the football around. It's half of them were half naked.
Not real gamers. They went to go touch
lost
grass.
all their gamer cred.
All your gamer cred went in the trash that day.
Anyway, that was a little side
Also,
tangent.
it's worth noting that as far as like strange depictions of gamers, I'm actually surprised to say like most of them were fairly normal people.
Oh, yeah.
They would say some weird things. I think it was mostly one of the McPoyle twins. I think his name was Finn. His name was Finn because it was short for Phineas. And then Frankie Muniz' character, who was Swink, because he had like a nerdy graphic T-shirt. He had this like what are they? It's like the money clerk, the visor, the like green clear
He
visor.
almost looked like he came out of like The Wizard or something.
Yes.
He's like a different like era's stereotype of a
Absolutely.
gamer.
He had this visor
way to
sideways
put it.
and upside down. So like those are the 2 strangest depictions of this. But in the video game, he is about to get trampled by a horse-drawn carriage, and Derek was super excited about
Dude,
this.
I was because okay. Listen, the 2 kills we've had so far is a guy hanging
And
a
a guy who
couple
got
mutilated sex fiends.
That's true.
And
Stab in the neck.
stab it in the neck.
Yeah, very
So it's like-
typical kind of kills. for
Yes,
the movie with
absolutely.
a
So it's like-
wild premise.
That have mostly
get-
been cut away from, it's a PG-13 movie. We can't show all of that.
Are we gonna get horse-drawn carriage death?
Are we going to get a horse-drawn carriage death?
I'm so excited because he was about to die.
Because Finn, he's about to get hit by a horse-drawn carriage, and that's when he pauses the game.
Exactly.
Which
And
saves your
goes
life.
about his day.
Right.
Which he does
And-
make
You
some
would think?
comment about mirrors being a
it would.
thing. Because apparently, I didn't really catch this early on until it became a relevant thing. But like when the Countess looks in mirrors, they break.
Yeah.
And so he found some way to shine a thing back to her that did not break, and that becomes important later.
Which,
It's like a very small thing to add into it.
Still her reflection.
But so...
It's just a lot of
yeah,
reflections
it's
now.
exactly. But so
You're right.
But the point of all of this is like we've established the rule that you die in the game, you die for real. So he has not died in the video game yet. So we assume that he's safe. He leaves the video game. He's driving out in the middle of nowhere. He swerves his car off to the side of the road. He does not crash the car, but for some reason he calls his friends. He's like, "I'm stranded here. I can't drive anywhere." Like, my guy, you didn't. Your car's fine. It is unscratched.
Literally okay.
You can drive just fine.
He was
But
too spooked to drive because he sees the carriage.
Yes.
And that's what he swerves and kind of stops the car after
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
It's like drowsy driving.
yeah,
Spook
exactly.
driving.
It's
Right,
spooky
you
drive.
can't-
It's like
Don't drive spooked
while you're driving. Pull over. Save a life.
You gotta take a break for a second. I can't drive right now.
I can't drive right now. I'm spooked.
I'm gonna cause an
Okay,
accident.
let's talk literally for a second, you guys. If you were driving and you hallucinated a horse-drawn
Well,
carriage,
yeah.
you'd probably pull over.
I remember my dad would have because typically he was
Dad
the
had this happen?
something like this. He would be the one who would typically drive the longest lengths on family road trips out to Disney or something like that. And he would always he knew he needed to stop because the signs that would pass on the side of the road of the night started to look like people reaching out to him is what he would say. And so I would argue, yeah, spooked driving might be kind of
Fair
bad.
enough.
Because that's what he's like, I need to stop for a second. I'm too spooked to drive.
Can I please?
Spooks driving only has to
please-
happen once.
Okay, so I have up in front of me moviecensorship.com/reportphp, which is a description of the uncensored version of the movie and the theatrical representation of the movie.
They went
And
fairly
what
in depth with this stuff too.
difference it is. Go check it out if you want. I just need to bring up a scene that just happened in the movie that was absent. And I'm just going to read this verbatim.
Please,
because
lay it on us.
An absolutely pointless scene is rightly absent in the theatrical version, although it concerns a larger storyline scene. I don't understand how. The reason for removal might be censorship, because toilet paper and a shot of a young lady in an unfavorable position on the toilet, as well as foul language, presumably was too much for the PG-13 rating.
Interesting.
There is a goddamn scene that is not in the movie where Hutch,
Who's the main character?
Who's the main character? Tells Abigail to go, or Abigail asks for the bathroom as she goes to the bathroom.
Yep.
He remembers in flashback motion that there is no toilet paper in said bathroom. So he goes to the bathroom.
So there's a flashback of the empty toilet paper roll spinning on the thing.
He goes there, knocks, and says, "The toilet paper's out." And then he opens the door, as you guys will see, and hands her toilet paper.
She is just sitting there on the toilet.
Sitting unfavorably on the toilet, and gives her said toilet paper.
I would.
And they talk a little bit,
Oh, thanks.
and then they say, I like Unreal Tournament. And then what? And realizes she doesn't play video games and says, "What the fuck is my problem?" And the scene ends.
Yeah, I can see
now-
why that one's cut.
Well, see, I think their kiss later would have been more. They could have sold it better if we saw him hand her toilet
Yeah,
paper earlier.
because
I
nothing
think
really
that would have
bonds two
But-
people like handing them toilet paper in
Yeah,
need.
you're in a vulnerable
He
position.
saved her.
Somebody saves you.
It's true.
Absolutely.
But I must
Your
remind
chemistry
you,
has gone up.
It's through the roof.
Nick, I must remind you that in this version of the movie, the kiss doesn't happen.
That's
Oh, this got
Doesn't.
cut from. All right, so even more pointless.
even more pointless. Goodness.
There's even a moment where
Okay.
he's walking away, and she's
right.
like, "Wait, close the door." He turns around and closes the door. Why was this in the
She
movie?
is a stranger to this man. This is the first time they hang out. Well, I guess first and a half, because he meets her at the funeral of the friend, right? So you're telling me they're completely comfortable enough to be having a conversation with an open bathroom door? That's crazy. This is nonsense.
I don't know, man.
But of all the things that they cut from the movie, I would say that makes sense why that could have been.
I couldn't let us continue without bringing up
Yeah.
the toilet paper scene.
Wild.
But so point is the McPoyle Finn, he has not died in the video game. He paused before he was trampled, and yet here he is out in the middle of nowhere, walking in the middle of the street. He keeps hearing this horse neigh, and he's just, "Hey." He literally says "hey" to it, almost like HAY, like a horse would eat.
Hey, I love hay.
How was your hay?
He knows what is for horses.
And so
He knows this one.
He knows this joke.
What is for?
Wait,
If you're ever being chased by horses down the street, remember the 3-letter word, hey. It saves your life.
who is this whimsical character you've got here?
I'm Johnny the Expectation Wizard. I expect that I will die, and so I say the magic word, hey.
And then you die.
No, he doesn't die
Oh,
because he said the magic word.
That's fair. But so Finn is hearing all these neighs and horse sounds all around him, and then turns around and then just gets trampled really fast by a complete horse-drawn carriage. Derek got his wish, and he dies.
But I hated it, man. It wasn't a good kill. It had potential. He got run over. Yeah,
Yeah.
What is his name? Phineas
Finn,
got
yeah.
run over by drawn carriages.
By drawn carriages.
He got Madam Webbed, and that's all
Oh
we could
my God,
ask
he did.
for. Really.
Stop. Goodness.
That movie.
Derek watched that movie in its entirety and then speed ran me through it. He's like, these are the things you need to see. And there wasn't a lot.
Whilst doing that, I was like, no, you got to watch the whole movie to get how bad it is and why it works.
I cannot just skip through and explain it to you. You really just have to experience all of it.
I do that sometimes where I'll watch a shitty movie or a wild movie and I'll be like, Isaac, you need a speed run version
Yes.
of this movie.
It's like they're just...
I'll do that for people on occasion too,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're like sitting you down to watch the whole thing.
It's cruel.
Is going to be harder to get you to do that. If I tell you I'm going to speed run through it, even though it'll probably take like an hour anyway.
Yeah.
But you'll save a half hour of your day.
Yeah.
And plus you get to in that presentation mode. You're like, now this works
yes.
because of this. Like I did that with the movie Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I don't know if you saw that movie, but I love the ending to that movie so much, but I didn't really care too much for the rest of the movie. So I was like,
sure.
Isaac, I must show you this movie Spark Notes so you can appreciate the ending.
Yes. And I did appreciate that. I'm like, I feel like I saw exactly as much as I wanted to see of this movie.
Yeah.
But so in the movie now, there are more deaths that happen. There are two detectives that are looking into this thing. They're trying to
Mulder and Scully?
Yeah, they're trying to find some way, X-Files style now. They're trying to find some way to connect these murders to this group of teens that seem to be at the center of it each time it happens. And one of the detectives, for no reason at all, he sees, first of all, Frankie Muniz' character just has the video game on an Alienware laptop. It's like this big reflective back
What
to
was
it.
that type of laptop?
Alienware laptop?
I don't know. I'm not familiar.
No, you're not familiar
Is
with
that
this?
like a line of clothing?
No. It was a very popular brand of laptops and gaming branded computers that looked like aliens.
Yeah. See, I never had those forced down my throat growing up or anything.
Or through this movie. Where they constantly show you the logo
They would literally
as prominently featured. Yeah.
hold in front of the camera. Not sponsored by Alienware.
I remember one of my friends got an Alienware laptop.
And you wanted it so bad.
A group of us went over to his house to look at it, and we just all huddled around.
Like it was a spaceship.
Yeah, play Warcraft 2.
Yeah. Play that game.
Oh my God. Look at those orcs.
Mind-boggling effects.
Incredible.
But one of the two detectives takes Frankie Muniz's Swinks computer from him that he's playing the game out in the middle of nowhere, no connection to any kind of Wi-Fi, nothing. And he's like, let's see what you guys are all scared about. What's this incantation? Blah, 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 blah. So he reads it out. And then
he speed runs the game.
Within the span, there's people walk away from them. They have a conversation for 6 seconds. In that time, he has created a character that looks just like him, gotten into the house, into the torture room, and he ends up strapped to a chair with these claws in his mouth that rip his head apart and make it explode.
Except we don't see any of that.
No, because yes, eventually
He's just there.
His little we
Mouth
see
prongs.
we see the little mouth thing, and then they close the laptop, so we don't really know how he dies in the game.
No.
And then later he just explodes in a car.
Yeah, he literally he's in his car. He's like, "Oh no!" And then we just see the car splat with blood everywhere. It's like, okay, sure.
Then
Why
you jump
not?
back over to
didn't make
movie
it.
censorship. You get a full Saw-like scene in the uncensored version of the movie.
It's pretty brutal.
I want to remind, we
claws and everything.
just couldn't watch that movie.
Yeah, you have to buy that
access
version
to
of the
it.
movie.
But yeah, he had those pincher claws, like you were saying, and yeah, his whole head. You see his eyeballs pop out of his head.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
it looks pretty nasty.
We didn't see that.
But so now the character October, who's the goth character, this and is very aptly named, I suppose. She starts connecting the fact that the character in this game, this Elizabeth Bathory, is a real person. This countess from the real world.
What
She's
is that name?
she has a real plantation. We should go out there. And then she reads into the lore about her, I guess, and finds out the way to stop her is to put 3 nails in her heart, 1 nail in her head or something like that, and then the last straw is to burn her.
Fire!
Now, fire bad.
Oh no.
Fire very bad for our main character of Hutch, who has this tragic backstory about how what happened? His dad was upset with his mom and burned the house down, I guess, was something like that. I didn't quite get
guys catch
that.
Yeah. His dad got mad and burned the house down with them inside it.
Yes.
He escaped, but his mom didn't.
Yes. And
I think
so
that's
is
a completely reasonable upset reaction.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, arguably, yes.
honey, did you cook the roast?
Oh, his reaction.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
right.
You agree. You get
Yeah, I
into
agree
it. You're
with
like, yeah, that makes sense.
You know what? Yeah, I'm going to go burn my house down, actually.
You know what? I'm mad right now. Honey, I'm home for dinner. I brought the boss with me. Oh no, I forgot to put the oven in the roast in the oven.
I forgot to put the oven in the oven.
Hey, boss, let's change dates. Come back in 2 weeks. I'll have a new wife then. Lights match.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. But like, this movie makes a couple attempts to try to make us care more for some of these characters that just don't necessarily work. Like, there's one bit where we find out the character Abigail, I think is her name, the new person to this entire group. When she first meets them, she tells them, "Oh, my mom works as first grade, and my dad's an architect." And then there's one scene where they're all like really in this together, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I lied about that, by the way." And nothing matters about that. Like, why does it matter that she lied about that? Who cares?
One thing that really
Am I
bothered
supposed to
me,
like her more?
One thing that really bothered me about Abigail the whole time
was
why she was there at all.
Yeah, she did
Because
not
she was
really
taking
serve much
pictures at the
purpose.
cemetery. Of
Yeah.
them. And then all of a sudden they're hanging out. She's playing games with them. And
She just becomes friends with
pooping
them.
on his toilet. and
I was thinking maybe she would
doesn't
like
have toilet paper.
she would be connected to it somehow by the end of the movie. Like maybe she's like the developer of the game or knows them, is connected to this Countess character.
Yeah, that's what we all thought. I
have
think
no
was gonna
idea.
happen at the reveal.
Yes.
because she had suddenly this moment in a car with him where she's like, "I have a confession to make."
Yes.
And it was like,
You're the Countess's daughter.
She's,
Say it.
Yeah, she's got some connection. She's a programmer or something.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "I live in this van.
Yeah. And that's all it is.
It's so true though.
This van is my home. That's my deep, dark secret."
I'm
My
so
house
sorry you
moves.
know that
That
I'm
sucks, but-
homeless and I live in this
That would have
van.
been such a better way for her to say that. It's like, so I need to tell you about my house. It doesn't have my mom or my dad or my dog in it.
It has
And
wheels.
it has wheels. It is this van.
Welcome to my home.
Sorry.
Take your shoes off, please.
Did you take your shoes off at the door? Also, I have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Here's the password.
Maybe that's the reason. That's what it all connects down to, because this vehicle is basically her house, so it has Wi-Fi, so they can play the game on the go wherever they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess
It's got dial-up, drive-up internet,
it's got drive-up modem.
drive-up modem.
But so
Stupid.
So then moving forward in the movie, there's a scene where October goes into like this house under construction. She runs into the Countess. She ends up dying there too. I think she just like slices her throat. It's the first time we see the Countess in the real world.
Yeah.
And it is a real person in the costume, but then they just completely cover her face with some rough looking CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, at first I thought that was intentional. Like,
Yeah.
she's like,
Make her look more like the video game.
make her look like the video game, and I was like, great, amazing move. If
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
The case.
If that's
'Cause, like,
what they're doing.
If that was the intent, I'm like, that's a great way to hide your low CG budget.
Yes,
is that
absolutely.
they look like the video game character? Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
But-
we were all into it at that moment.
Yeah, I was like,
Yes.
okay, yeah, that
Then
makes
you're like,
sense.
yeah, there she is, the video game lady. But then later they seem to indicate, like they show her in other forms that are not that. So
No.
it's like, okay, no, that's just
Yeah, I feel like I would have liked it more if they just stuck with that. If they made it look like, yeah, she looks kind of like the video game
I mean, you
graphics
have
look, right?
The character model. Just move it.
Just move it.
It's
Yeah.
not a real game. You can
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
move
like-
it.
Exactly.
just move it
You
to
didn't- you
the
didn't rig
the-
assets
over
in a
on top
video
of the
game.
assets. Yeah, I mean, just go full Lawnmower Man with it. You know, Like,
Yes.
Lawnmower
Yeah.
Man. Anytime a shitty CG thing appears, it's like, yeah, but in this world, that's what it looks
It
like.
would look like
That's
that.
just what it is.
It just looks
That's
like
what
that
it
in
looks
this
like.
world,
He
you know?
brought the cyber bees to reality.
That was a fantastic deep cut.
But
Well
so
done. Where's our deep cut alarm?
But so in this world right now, we're pretty deep into the movie at this point. They're just getting picked off like one by one with ease. They have nothing at their disposal right now to get them any sort of power over this Blood Countess Elizabeth Bathory character. I'm like, what are they gonna do? And that always makes me nervous in a horror movie, because that means if we're getting this far into a movie, we don't have a lot of time to resolve that in like a way that feels satisfying. Like it's probably gonna be a quick fix, and it's like, oh, I guess the good guys win. You know,
So-
thanks Disney.
Yeah. So many of these movies leave you unsatisfied like that.
Yeah.
I tend to just expect it at this point.
Right.
So it's kind of nice when a movie goes the other way, but unfortunately, this movie.
Yeah. So at this point now, the only characters that we have alive from the main friend group is Hutch, the main guy, Abigail, who's basically becoming his love interest at this point, and then Frankie Muniz' character Swink.
Swink.
And Swink's like the kind of like super nerdy type who's like
Swink the
intellectual into the statistics of it all.
Swink Frink the Twink.
Swink Frink is his middle name.
Yeah, now it is.
Swink Frink.
Swink Frink the Twink, Main's Link.
Okay, yeah, that's his figure.
Nice.
You
Yeah,
the
when
overseer.
he plays Smash. Swink Frank the Twink, Main's Link In a blink.
In a blink.
Clink.
Tink.
Only wears sweaters made of mink.
Dang. And you got more?
Yeah. Favorite character? Jar Jar Binks.
Okay. I would have more for you, but I would really have to think.
Hey.
Hey. Wink.
Whoa!
I can't. That's too deep.
But so now.
Dink. No.
In the video in the real life now, they go to this quote unquote the real countess's in the real world. I guess she had an actual plantation house. And for some reason, they do not immediately connect the pieces that this plantation in the real world is what is the model in the video game. It takes them a while to even figure that out. I don't understand how they did not put two and two. It seemed pretty obvious to me.
They had like 3 revelations in the same
in
like
the scene,
5
yeah.
minutes. Like it's every because you think what was it? Yeah. Now I got his name confused. Mink.
Swink.
Swink.
We have too many.
So, no, I don't
It's
know
a
which
made-up
one
name.
was.
It doesn't matter.
I can't remember.
Frink.
Wink and Frink. Frink is
You're
Professor
done.
Frink is he's playing the game while the other guys are exploring, right?
Yes.
The other two are
Yeah.
exploring the manor.
He's in the
And
crazy van.
He's
house.
sort of like helping them navigate the manor, and so it seems very clear by him doing that he now has made that connection. And then they're like, "Oh, whoa, that's weird that you could do that." And then they like come across like the cemetery, and then he has like a revelatory statement of like, "We're in her backyard
Whoa!
now."
Like, how do you not get this?
I thought you already established that.
But
I
this.
thought that's why you were here.
I did think that was a really cool part of the story, though, like leaning into like the video game movie kind of thing. It's like, okay, that's really neat. He's guiding them through the house because the video game model he has all of the house layout, right? It's basically like a blueprint that he can.
Yeah.
He's like the man in the car in like an action movie, right? Where he's
Yeah.
like giving them the information. What's crazier than that, though, is they add another level to this where he leads the main guy to this one door to get in the house. Like, it's locked. I need something like a crowbar. In the video game, he sets a crowbar on the ground. He's like, look down. Is there a crowbar there? He's like, there is a crowbar there.
He's essentially the DM.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah.
he's
Just putting
running
things
their
in front of
D&D
them.
campaign.
Now he can affect reality with the game, and that sets up an incredibly interesting mechanic that
Yes.
never comes up again.
No, and I was so sad that didn't become used more. That was such a cool thing.
Why
We
at
don't
the
need
beginning
that
of the movie?
We don't need that again. That's so cool.
It's such
and then,
a cool thing.
Like, oh, well, I guess we ran out of ideas. That's all we had.
Anyway,
Like-
thanks for visiting,
That's all,
folks. That's
folks.
all we
like,
got,
they
folks.
could have done something like at the end, right, where he's like trying to do this ritual or whatever. And not to jump ahead too much, but
No,
like
you're good.
where he's setting all this stuff up, and if something magically appeared that he needed, that would be like, wait
like
a
the
second,
game.
Who's
It's-
playing the
who's
game?
playing the game right
Mhm.
now, and that's how they could reveal blah 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 later. But
Yeah.
we'll
We'll retouch on that.
It could've-
touch on that. but-
there's so much potential within this movie for things that
Yeah.
could have happened, could have been done a lot differently, you know.
I agree.
But earlier in the movie, we find out the first time they played the game, there's a mechanic that you pick up these roses throughout the games, and those will stop the evil from getting
Basically
you,
a
right?
gun, like ammunition.
It's basically a gun, I guess. It just immediately evaporates the ghost in the video game, I guess.
Everybody
that
loves
saves
a
you.
rose gun.
and it like stops them from like coming to you as
Yeah.
well. Like they can't touch you if you have it, so they don't come near you.
Mm-mm.
And also if you touch them with it, they like go.
Yeah.
poof.
Yeah.
But there's one point in the video game world where Swink finds Abigail is like held down by 2 ghost children. She's about to get killed by the Countess, and he just throws 3 roses at them and they disappear.
Perfect
Yeah.
game.
And so it's like, okay, so right, we're reminded of the fact that there are roses that can destroy these things. But they keep mentioning they have to be wild roses. So they go into the bushes and grab a bunch of wild roses
That's incredible.
that just happen to be right outside.
It is a finite resource. So,
I suppose, yes.
in a wild sense, if this was not contained and this video game took over the world, our supply of roses would run out.
That's true.
And
And
they
we'd
would
be in
win.
deep shit after
You
that.
Think we'd have a war of some kind
War
over
of-
these roses?
War of the
No, we
Roses.
wouldn't. No.
No, he says no. We're hearing from our publicist. He says no. But so now what happens is basically there's this big climax of the movie, right? They're all inside the house. There's a scene where we see Swink basically die. He gets like cornered. He's getting chased for a while by the horse-drawn carriage. He falls in like a bush of wild roses.
Yeah.
But it gives us the impression that he died.
Well, you
in the
see the
video
computer
game,
screen.
it says game over. So it's like, oh, so he died in the game. So I guess he died in real life, but he was covered by the roses, so that doesn't follow its own logic immediately.
And you don't see his corpse.
But you don't see his corpse. Derek always...
Rule number one in any
game
movie.
corpse.
Yes, we see his game corpse, not the
See
real
his
corpse. His corpse.
His corpse.
No, sorry. You see his figure's gorps.
Figures gorps,
You
also
don't
known as
see his
fagorps.
Fagorps. Yes.
Yes, you see his fagorps.
Not the corpse of his overseer.
No.
No, it's the overseer's fagorps. It's terrible.
Man, I see my fagorps all the time, man. It's the craziest thing. I have to go to therapy about my fagorps.
But so inside the house, there's a sequence where Hutch and Abigail are running through like this hall of nightmares. There's all of these like scary looking ghost children chasing after them. They just keep throwing roses and roses and roses all over the place.
It's like in any survival game, like we were talking about 7 Days to Die earlier. It's like if you're playing a game like that and you're using all your ammo.
Yeah.
Those fucking idiots, man. You're gonna need those.
It is a
roses
finite
later.
resource. We have talked about this.
Literally, people have gone to war. War of the Roses happened, guys. That's right. It's canon now. I'm into it.
And what really pissed me off is there's this like unnecessarily dramatic scene between Hutch and Abigail where they get trapped on either sides of this one door, and he's like, "Take the last rose. I love you, and you must survive beyond me." And it was just like out of nowhere, these two were just in love with each other. They're almost strangers in this
Man,
movie. Like
in some alternate universe, he saw her pee.
that's true, and that means something.
that's true.
That means something to them.
But that's character. That's player knowledge, not character.
Yeah.
knowledge.
And so the funniest thing about that is after he gives her the last rose they have to protect herself, there's a shot of her sitting down waiting,
Oh my God.
taking off the petals, going, he loves me not. And
Why?
each of the petals are disappearing on the floor. I'm like, you were destroying the weapon that he gave you. You are killing yourself doing this.
And it's not like she had no reason to think he didn't.
Yes.
Like
just
they
gave
just
you-
had their tender little moment where he like
He essentially
you
sacrifices
Shoved
himself.
his tongue
he's like-
down your throat.
yeah.
Through the door.
through the door, and says, "I'm giving my life to you, just in case." And then,
But I wonder.
but I want she, yeah, she,
I'm
yeah,
still, I wonder if he
wasn't
loves
sure,
me though. I'm just
so.
not sure. But so yeah, she unfortunately is left defenseless. Does get kidnapped by this countess. She's put like hung upside down over this bathtub, which I guess there's some plot line missing that was cut from it, where she like drains blood into the bathtub, and
Yeah,
that
in
probably
the-
gives her eternal life.
In the uncensored thing, she was like using that bathtub to collect the blood of children.
Yeah, makes sense.
The
Sure,
whole thing.
that's it.
I wish I had
I
more.
guess a thing. that she did.
I guess
She
so.
was a thing that she did.
Which I know Elizabeth Bathory is like actually a real character, and this is there's a whole story behind it, which I didn't look into, but I
In
know it
real
actually exists. Yeah, it's a real thing.
Hey, hold on. I got
Are you gonna do research? Yeah, I want to say it was in like actually like Hungary. I think is where like this story originally takes place.
hungry. Keep going.
But so now what happens is the Hutch finds the body of the countess, tries to nail three nails into her chest, into her neck, her head, whatever. Doesn't work. She basically just spits them all back out. And the best part is when he like the Alienware laptop he's been carrying around with him breaks, and he takes the cover of it that is incredibly chrome reflective. And he's like, wait a minute, the mirrors, like in the video game, shines it back to her, and it like stuns her for a second,
She,
I
like,
guess.
screams for a while.
Yeah, she just screams at it. It doesn't like kill her or anything. It just like stuns her long enough so that he is able to then light the room on fire, because I guess it's covered in gasoline, which I don't. Did either of you guys see the room get covered
I
in?
don't remember that
No.
being established.
No,
No.
he was just sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
There's no goddamn way there was full of gas.
But yeah, so he just like lights the ground real quick, and it just like goes up in flames, and he's like, "Oh no,
I
the
face
fire
my
is
fear."
everywhere! I this is my biggest fear." Which honestly, like that would suck. That would be awful
that'd be
to
terrible.
have to deal with something like that. But then his friends come in and save him,
Swing.
and that's the reveal that Swink is alive.
Yes.
I was kind of hoping Swink would
He
come
comes
in and like
still like covered in the bush.
in the bushes.
just
He's
so
actually
that in case we didn't realize that that's why he survived.
He
He's
literally-
covered in the bush.
he has the bushes like in his hands. He's waving them around like they're protecting him, you know? But I wanted that reveal to be more like, you know, he like comes in to save the day, and that's the big reveal, but it's just like, oh, he's also here. Like I guess
yeah, they both save him.
he's
right?
just alive all of a sudden. And so that's the way that situation ends. But the way the movie ends is there's this clerk that works at a video game store, and he's opening up these boxes. And what's that on the inside? A completed version, as well as several other copies of the game Stay Alive. And then he goes to, like, puts it into this PS2, where there's a whole PS2 appearance in the game, and it starts booting up. And we see the Countess is still alive, even though they burned her plantation to the ground, which we thought was going to destroy her. So
Yeah. As
everything
far
they
as
did was for nothing.
the folklore goes. Yeah, so
So yeah.
Whoa, goosebumps.
Whoa, yeah.
Okay.
So it should be noted.
Ending, I guess.
It should be noted before I start talking about Elizabeth Bathory that there were 2 characters cut from the final version of this film.
That I would argue are so necessary to so many questions we had after the fact.
Because you might notice while we were doing the plot rundown that at no point is it discussed how the Victorian ghost makes a video game.
No. It's like, okay, so we've established
She's an incredible programmer.
it's this real life countess ghost whatever. I can get behind that. Why the hell is she in a video game?
Willed it into existence.
Yeah, how does that happen? Like these two things, like she was from a completely different time period. She would have no knowledge of something like this.
So Abigail and Chuck the Fuck, I can't remember his name.
Hutch.
Thank you. Chuck the Fuck.
Strange names in this movie.
I don't know, man.
Swink, Hutch, October.
Chuck the Fuck. They actually track down the programmer of the game. And how did they do it, though? We do see this. Do you guys remember that? When they go back to Loomis Crowley's house
Yes.
and open up his porn cabinet, which is the inside of his computer.
He has a
And
phone in there.
They pull out a phone that has one contact in it, and it's the programmer's address
And it has
website.
like the website for the video game for like, what is it? Bellman Games, and like the address for it all.
Incredible. So they show up. It's another full character that was not in the movie.
An actor that is completely cut from the movie.
Yeah, they talk to him and he's like, yeah, I just wanted to build a game that was really deep and grounded in a real life situation and wanted to make a super authentic video game, all that stuff. Then
So he bases it off a book that he found.
Based it on a book. He gives them the information for the book.
So they deflect it again. So it's not his fault. So like, okay, so then let's go to the next person.
Then they find
Convoluted.
They find this woman who wrote this book that is based on the diary of this woman. Of the Countess.
Many steps. It was a diary. Then it was the author of the
Yes.
book. Then a guy made a game based off of that. Then you play the game. Then you die in real life.
Yes. So
There's a lot of layers to it.
essentially the lore of this is not the real one. The lore of the Countess from the movie that was not given to us. I must emphasize that again.
At all.
This is something I'm reading on a random website that some guy made in his basement. This is one day, the Countess was murdering a bunch of young girls and found out after one of her maids randomly cut her that she could keep. Okay, I'm gonna. It's very confusing.
Let's reset this. This is a lot.
Countess is murdering people.
Okay.
One day, her maid accidentally cuts the Countess.
Okay.
She furiously murders said Countess.
As you
says maid. She murders her maid for
Yes.
stabbing her.
Mhm.
Okay. She
I'm
then
with you so
finds
far.
out that she can use the blood of the kids she's killing to bring people back to life and keep her living longer.
Interesting.
So then she starts killing more girls to keep herself living longer because she hated looking in mirrors because she thought she
didn't like her aging appearance?
So that's why the mirrors
That makes
cracked
sense,
throughout the
yeah.
movie. That's the whole.
That's it.
That's it.
That's literally the story.
So is the book that in this cut version of the scene when they discuss the book, is it like the is it just like the thing at the beginning of the game that causes all this? Is that the idea?
That is
Like,
the idea.
Yeah.
It's just the passage from the diary.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's
guess that has
basically
to be
like
what
the
it is,
Evil
right?
Dead
Yeah.
passage.
Yes.
So if you put the Evil Dead
Kanda.
passage in the game, then that's basically a vessel for this ghost now to operate through the game.
Yeah.
So she used those shears. She would tie the girls up. Content warning. She would tie the girls up, hang them from their feet over a bathtub. She would slit their throat. The
With
blood
these
would drain
scissors.
into the bathtub. She would bathe in the blood of the young girls, and that's what would keep her alive if she used those specific scissors.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, mind
kind
you,
of a cool lore.
none of this is in the theatrical cut of the movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and not only because like we were curious because there was a lot of this stuff that like I understand the PG-13 rating. Some of the stuff is not cut for censorship's sake. You could have had the programmer still be a part of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't understand what he put in the movie that was too lewd for TV. You know.
Yeah, and so the townspeople found out about what was going on. 39 girls were slaughtered, and as punishment, they walled her inside of a giant tower in the middle of her plantation, which is the giant tower that we see in the movie, and why it is hard for them to get inside of it because she was walled
bizarre.
inside of that.
Yeah.
And then somehow her spirit got out, and she's still murdering people to try and
Through
keep-
this video game.
Through the video
video
game,
game.
which
Okay.
somehow is also able to affect reality.
Yeah,
Like
that's
if you
another.
place
It
the
alters
crowbar
reality,
in the video game,
which is a crazy
that-
thing they just drop and then walk away from.
Yeah, that's some extension of the ghost curse, I guess.
So
wild.
now jumping over to real life. 'cause
Real
that
life
was
Elizabeth
not
Bathory.
Real life in between the years of August 1560 and August 1614, so a good 60 years, this woman, Elizabeth Bathory, was accused of killing and torturing hundreds and hundreds of girls
more
and
than
women.
39.
She was eventually put on trial for this, and just the amount of things. Go look into the story if you want to hear more. But basically, that's why it was a bathtub in the movie,
Right.
Because it's a reference to Bathory.
That's what made me remember the fact that this person actually exists.
Because of bath.
Bath, you know.
Bathory. That's fucking up there with
Before
like,
that, they were just tubs.
fucking House. I mean, just, House named after
Oh,
Sherlock
my.
Holmes.
Holmes. Yes. What's it? Watson. His friend is named something too. I can't remember. It's so on the nose. I love that.
Very,
scene.
Because he has an electric
surface
mind.
level.
He has watts, like a light bulb. He has great ideas. I don't know. I'm making bullshit up.
What's his name? Wilson, I think?
Yeah, Wilson.
Yeah.
Wilson. Sorry, I was mad at Isaac
That one's
about
more
a stupid
subtle.
joke.
It's just a W name. You know,
Yeah.
but-
I liked your joke.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, but I thought this was interesting. A lot of people think that Bram Stoker based Dracula off of some things
remember that.
she did because
okay.
a lot of people call her the Blood Countess.
Right, like utilizing the blood for like everlasting life in a sense, right? To
So that is the same
de-age
root
her.
story behind the
in particular the
Veronica
Contessa.
short. Countess of Blood was the name of the short.
Oh,
in-
yeah.
We were talking earlier about another separate terrible film.
Yes.
made by Glenn Danzig, Veronica.
Yes.
which also features a story adaptation of this.
It's all
bit of-
connected.
bit of history. There.
People love
So-
blood countesses, I guess.
I mean, there's something pretty. Oh my gosh. You mean Veronica?
Yes.
You have been saying that. I did not know it was pronounced like erotica, but Veronica.
But with a V.
I thought it was just Veronica. Like my brain was auto-correcting you guys. No. It's Veronica.
Verotica.
Sitting at, what's that on Rotten Tomatoes, Derek?
That's good enough for us to watch, my guy.
Oh.
It's 22% and a 16%.
Put that in our back
I'm
pocket
gonna
real
slide
quick.
that into an envelope and put it on my desk for later.
But so in the long and short, that is basically Stay Alive from 2006
Yeah.
in a not so much a nutshell, in a bigger shell,
It's in a shell.
in a coconut. Is that
In a
bigger?
Mountain Dew can.
In a Mountain Dew can, I would
It was
say.
a Fresca can because they were
Fresca,
drinking.
oh, yes.
They were drinking
Yes.
Fresca
They're
through
drinking
this movie.
Fresca.
Were
which
they?
is-
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that.
I was looking for Mountain Dew the entire goddamn
That's
movie.
true. Like, you know, if you're gonna make a game about gamers, you need gamer fuel. You need Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Was there any? No.
No, absolutely
Instead, there
zero.
was a sweaty guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia and a can of Fresca.
And Frankie Muniz, not in the middle of this Malcolm. So on the subject of the gamers, how do you feel your expectations ended up being
Yeah.
with like the
Give us your
the
verdicts.
portrayals, all the tropes that you typically have?
Yeah, the characters themselves. Yeah, that I feel like most of that checked out. I was surprised they were a little more. They weren't as mean spirited about it as I thought
Yeah.
they would be.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a little more digging into that kind of stuff.
I
like
really
you
thought it was
talked
going to be at their expense a lot more.
about. Yeah, I like Phineas didn't. If he had more screen time, I guess by virtue of that, he would.
That's true.
There would have been. He was like the most obnoxious portrayal.
Obnoxious and raunchy kind of character.
Uh-huh.
Had he stuck around for longer, yeah, probably would have been a bit worse.
Would have been a little worse on that front. But yeah, I don't know. Everybody else was just kind of like boring person. So
Just
except
people.
for just regular people who just like Silent Hill 4, So like
Hardcore, real time, real life gamer.
all the interesting characters died off really fast, and
Yes.
it just left us with the most boring people, except for what's his face?
Swink.
Chuck the
Swink.
Except for Swink, because
For
he
Swink. We love Swink.
he had enough going on with his weird visor and his
Oh
weird,
yeah, I wanted to see more Swink.
I wanted to see more Swink. He was kind of the Big Bang Theory character.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Why didn't he say Bazinga? He didn't say Bazinga one time.
If I could change one thing about this movie, it'd be more Bazinga, please.
If I could turn back time, he would definitely say Bazinga a couple times.
It's like the needs more cowbell, except just needs more Bazinga.
More Baswinka.
More swing. Needs more Baswinka.
More scene, more
no.
Bazinga.
Absolutely. Derek, should we discuss our expectations for this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
So my my first one said I was expecting very 2000s editing, and mostly just in the quick cuts. There wasn't as much of it as I thought there was going to be, but almost every time that the blood countess would kill someone, it was just her rushing at the camera and then quick cuts of scary things and like flashes of lights, and then they were dead. So like that was probably the closest I got as far as the 2000s edits in it.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, and obviously we had the same expectations. So
Right.
yeah, I do think that there was a lot of 2000s coding in this, like especially with like some of the shots and some of the screams.
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
That's all I got.
I said it was going to have very little scare factor, and I think, yeah, it was just actors pretending to be scared by things and just throwing tropey, spooky things at us. Like, here's this girl that kind of looks like the Grudge, this person walking backwards on the ground, you know, like, ooh, spooky, scary things, rusty things hanging from the ceiling and blood on the walls. Like, that was really it, but it wasn't actually very scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Overuse of gaming tropes. No one understands the way gaming works. I feel like it was actually pretty decent. There wasn't like we've talked about this extensively over the whole episode so far. Just like the gaming tropes that happened in here weren't actually that ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was mostly just the game itself that was a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the way they played it was.
No, absolutely.
I would have gone to that LAN party.
Yeah, that's true. You were kind of like, there was a small part of Derek who's like, oh man, I remember
There was a
those
lot
days.
of nostalgia in this
Yeah.
movie. So like they went to GameStop a couple times.
There was like a
it
game
was a
cafe,
good
which I
time.
personally had never been to. I did not know such a thing existed.
Yeah, man.
It's literally just like
That's
half
one-
cafe, half gaming room. They just had a bunch of PCs mounted on the walls. You could play them. Like, it's cool.
in Riverton, Utah, across the street from my elementary school, there was a cafe called Gamers.
That's
And
it.
was-
With a Z or
yeah,
just
with
S?
a Z.
Okay.
With a Z.
Of course it
And
is.
It was the coolest place. They were like I remember. Oh my god, it's fine.
It
I'm gonna live in
really
my
takes me
nostalgia,
back.
Okay,
That's fair. That's fair.
I could never afford it.
I said it was going to have strange depictions of gamers, and I think there was honestly a wide variety of gamer depictions here. But again, most of them are just kind of boring people, which I guess on one hand, I'm like, well, I'm glad they weren't like, oh, yes, my queen, I want to get the high score and level up. And so I'm like, I'm glad it wasn't super corny and cheesy, but also, yeah, they're just kind of boring people. I think the worst ones were like Swink and the McPoyle twin, right? Who was just like super raunchy, and then Swink was just kind of a weirdo intellectual type.
And you know, one thing I did appreciate,
I did like him, though.
is that they weren't all
the
stereotypes.
same, yes, that's true.
Like there were a couple, like one was like a corporate office worker who did cocaine, and the other ones were like just random people.
Yeah.
One of them used the toilet, which is crazy. I
And
didn't
like
think-
gamers
only pissed in
stereotypically
bottles.
don't do that.
Yeah, they pee in bottles. That's how it works.
They
I've
go
seen that episode
outside.
of South
Gamers
Park.
don't go outside.
No,
Like
no, never touch grass.
no,
Oh my God.
absolutely not. What was your next one?
No one can use a goddamn controller. Every single time they used a controller, it wasn't really being used.
They would do
properly.
close-ups
Like-
of them just mashing buttons.
Yeah, and they were always like touching the D-pads.
Oh yeah, like that Swink was like just basically moving.
just running.
He was just running
He was just
around,
running.
and he was like tapping the D-pad to
Yeah.
do so. It's like, boy, you can just hold that.
That's
just
you
hold that button
click down that joystick one time. You're set. Man, I
Also, it
promise.
has a joystick at this time. That D-pad's probably not doing anything.
No, yeah. I said it was going to have decent depictions of game enemies in real life, and no, I was wrong about that. Even the real actor playing the Countess had her face covered in CGI, which again would have been cool if they just stuck with that,
Yeah.
but then they didn't, because the final showdown with the Countess had some bits of like, it looked like some practical like extended jaw piece when she was screaming at her own
Yeah.
reflection.
It actually looked pretty decent.
Which I think looks pretty cool, but yeah, so like they wasn't quite what I was expecting or hoping from it.
I guess
Absolutely.
that one, it makes sense that it's a practical piece versus
Yes.
the other ghost appearances because that's the actual corpse.
Yes,
that they find.
That's true. That makes sense. So maybe that's
the one time where
it wasn't
it's
like her
switching. It makes
her
sense.
sending her appearance somewhere else. It was the actual corpse. So that actually maybe that tracks.
Absolutely. Very reminiscent of popular games at the times. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of Silent Hill, Resident Evil feelings in there. I mean, yeah, when he was driving down the street and everything turned to fog, that was so Silent Hill. Oh
yeah,
my God.
absolutely.
But I mean, there was even some WoW in there too, where you have them all playing an online game that's
Yeah.
perpetually online, and they have their save everywhere.
Yeah.
like
Anywhere they go.
Yeah, they all
even the
just-
back of a van.
I guess the cloud existed back at that point. I don't know.
It did.
I said it was going to have similarities to horror games released around the time. I mean, yes and no. Like nothing incredibly direct that I could really call
other
out.
than, like, Silent
But
Hill.
it just like felt like, you know, games around the time, right? The color palette especially felt like that kind of stuff. I did like that Silent Hill bit though. He literally turns down a street. He's like, oh dang, I went down the Silent Hill street again.
Yeah, it's crazy. The story is very ridiculous. I mean, the haunted house story was kind of cool, but there wasn't enough explanation in the theatrical version to make the story cohesive. Other than that, it was, yeah, It
Yeah.
was just fine.
So was there anything that surprised you guys about this movie? Anything you're like, wow, I actually kind of enjoyed that bit from it, or surprised in like a negative sense, I guess, either way?
I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by the carriage. I was very.
Me too.
Was not expecting that.
Yeah,
so-
I didn't think they would. It felt like they would be too, nitty gritty 2000s up their ass
Yeah.
serious
Yeah.
about it.
I thought they were going to use a car.
Well, yeah, because there was one
Yeah,
scene where
yeah, that
you
was-
hear the carriage approaching and then a car drives by. So I'm like, oh, so it's like
like
the
a-
modern day version of a carriage,
Uh-huh.
which I'm glad they didn't.
No, there was
No.
just straight up
No, go all
horse-drawn carriage.
Yes.
Ghostly carriage.
100%.
Runs them over. Like I was very. Anytime it showed up, I was very pleased because there was that chase scene through the
Through the graveyard, the
through the
cemetery.
graveyard
Yeah.
of the horse-drawn carriage, and even got some like ghost action of her like looking out from it on occasion.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
Like that was fun and schlocky
Yes.
and enjoyable.
I love
and I
that
wanted
kind of
more
stuff.
of that.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
more of that would have been
absolutely.
great. I also just liked in general the there was I thought the fake game within a game was fairly well realized. It
Oh,
didn't
yes.
feel like something you could see yourself playing.
Yes.
Absolutely. When
Just-
they're walking through the graveyard shooting the like nail guns.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that really did feel like a House of the Dead.
That was pretty cool.
like a on the rails shooter.
Yeah, the one scene of them playing the game all together it seemed really fun. I'm like, I would like to play this actually with my friends. It's like, where are you? I'm in some weird chamber in the basement. How'd you find that? I found like a secret door. Like it just sounded fun.
Yeah, it's undope. Until you die in real life.
Oh yeah. What about David? Did you find anything like surprising about this one that you enjoyed?
Oh wait, that falls into an expectation.
Oh,
that I
yeah.
didn't write down, which is why I forgot it.
Oh.
But I was pleasantly surprised at the general absence of misogyny as per 2006.
That's
You know
true.
what? You are so right.
Especially within gaming too.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
those
a
were
hat on a
girls
hat for
playing
misogyny.
games. I mean, that one girl, she didn't play games because she only pees on a toilet. But
Not
that
in
was
the bottle.
No, but you're
No,
totally
it was
right. I
like-
mean,
There was like maybe one little thing from Finn talking to October,
Mhm.
like, oh, what a whore.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
And he
yeah,
called that
yeah.
one girl Mama the entire
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
sup, mama.
Right,
The whole-
right.
But it was
He was
so
kind of
minimal.
depicted
Yeah.
as a little sleazebag, and not
Yeah.
everybody treated that.
But,
Right.
like, that's not
uh,
like the nice things. Like, oh, yeah, I look up to somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hadn't even thought about that. I am
totally
happy
right.
to say that there's a lack of that in this as well.
I mean, yeah, we've watched a lot of movies from the early 2000s. They always have excessive nudity and like so much of that misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, men are gross, you know,
Mhm.
that's like just played off as fine.
yeah, they're
most
like,
of the
oh, but it's
time.
funny and cute. Like, no, I don't
No,
think it
it's
is.
not. It never was.
I think maybe
You're so
the
right.
only.
Just all like people. Just normal people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, no,
I do like
that's
that.
True. They were actually not. Yeah, it wasn't super big, like important to them. Like they weren't making a gender
Yeah.
thing out of each other. But the only thing I think there's a little. I think there's the tiniest taste of that, just in the meta sense of them writing their main female character as being a complete 180 idiot at the end with the rose thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
that
Like,
vaguely
oh,
felt
okay.
like.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
you're
know,
right.
what would a girl do?
There was something
I
that
guess they
felt-
would probably count.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing that they do.
Yeah,
And
a
it
girl
felt
would do
very out of
that.
character for everything she'd done up until that point. I'm like, why is
Yeah.
she doing
It
this?
felt wrong.
Yeah.
It's like the 180 was justified via, well, she's a girl.
She's a girl, and that's just what
Yeah.
girls do. It was two men that wrote
I
it,
would-
so I guess I can't expect anything different.
I would bet that that's cut from the uncensored.
from the
version.
uncensored version.
Oh yeah,
They thought back on it.
because I guess the uncensored one doesn't have the
Anything.
like subplot of them being in love.
Yeah.
right? So
So I would
maybe
hope.
there's a
I would
better
hope at
maybe
least.
maybe they just don't. Oh, you didn't even need to cut to her doing anything.
No!
out there. We could have just assumed she was hanging out there while other things were happening.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
She comes in, rescue the day because it didn't matter that she did that happened.
Yeah,
No,
right?
yeah, it was
No.
completely pointless.
No,
It was just an artificial way to build a tension, right?
absolutely. So some of my
Ruined
surprises,
for character.
some of my surprises from this one. I enjoyed I really actually enjoyed the moment where they used the video game like a map for the real world.
That was cool.
And then that they could alter reality with it. That was like crazy to establish within this world. But I think that was a really fun scene of him being like, wait a minute, you see these two doors? Go to the one on the right. He's like, how do you know this stuff? Just trust me here and then go down and do this thing. Like it was a pretty fun sequence and that actually like used the game in the real world that I thought was really fun.
Yeah.
I also thought the sequences from inside the game were pretty fun to watch. Like they weren't incredibly like accurate to how a real video game works in any sense, of the way like the change of the POV and the way things moved and the UI was strange and all that kind of stuff. But like it was fun to see those scenes, like the scene of them playing the game game proper the first time was like fun. I enjoyed watching that bit. The wildness of how the game works / was played, they only had one disc, but 6 of them were able to play it all at once, wherever they want, just seemingly playing it anywhere. That was kind of a strange thing to me. And also the rules of how the die in real life mechanic works were wildly all over the place. Because you have characters that paused the games and didn't die. They still die. This guy died and so did his friends at the same time. Then Frankie Muniz died in the game, but not in the real life because he had roses. Like there was just way messy. Super messy. And then my last one, I was just like a little surprised by the level of some of the kills. They were either cut away off screen, but they were like, some of them were more brutal than I was anticipating. Like guy's head blows up, he gets hung by the neck and stabbed, and like the more brutal for your usual PG-13 experience, right?
Yeah. And all my surprises were basically in the same vein. So we can just move on to verdict.
Yeah. Verdict for me, I'm going to say it's tough for me. Like I enjoyed the film. And so like I had a good time enjoying it in the expense of laughing at / with it a lot of the time. So I guess I'm going to say that was a laughable time for me. I think I enjoyed this one, but I think mostly that just comes from a position of laughing at the movie and the wild directions that it had gone in, right? The acting was fine. Like it wasn't insanely bad like you come to expect from a lot of these kinds of things, but the plot definitely suffered from bad pacing at times. I feel like it definitely could have used some help in there. And I think it would have been a bit better not as a PG-13 movie, which like I don't usually expect, especially after finding out there's the unrated version that has so much more that I think would have helped it. I haven't seen that version, but it just already sounds like a better movie to me, But so I think that probably would have helped it. But it was an enjoyable time to like poke fun at all the holes in the movie, especially with all of us who like play and know video games pretty well. So like I think that made for a pretty fun experience. So I would say like yes, you should watch it, but maybe if you get a game over, you should only reload from your last checkpoint with some friends.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
What about you, Derek?
My pun at the end is not that good. I did. That was high scoreable.
Pretty good.
Because it's a good co-op experience. Stay Alive was
good. A good co-op experience.
Stay Alive was a fun time for horror video game fans. Pretty much only. I think going into this movie as a fan of both works. If you don't like both, you're probably not going to have a good time. And I do think that's where this movie failed, right? I do think it tried to target a mass audience. Yeah. And at the time, if you're targeting a mass audience, you're not going to succeed. And that it didn't work. As a movie, everyone phoning it in kind of worked for the genre, but I do wish I got a little bit more out of the main actors. All the good characters died early on. Maybe just don't put this movie in unless you're watching it on your PS2 with a bunch of your friends.
That's pretty good, though. I like that. That's not too terrible. Blah, blah, it is me, Count Trivia. Now I have to do the weird voice for the character.
Did you just call Count Trivia's voice weird?
No, it is my own voice, and I'm a vampire. I just finished.
Do you know Blood Countess Elizabeth Bathtub?
It's my favorite video game. I just got the high score in that one. While you guys were doing the episode.
You've never played a video game in your life.
I love video games. What are you talking about? I love Jumpman. He says Wahoo, and the Twilight one with the swords. And then the castles.
Zelda?
That's the one. Yes, of course. That's anyway. I'm going to fly away now. Take your trivia. Bye.
I was going to ask him who you played as in Zelda, and I bet he would say Zelda, the son of a bitch.
He probably would say Zelda. I wouldn't ask him that. But so I found a little bit of trivia about this one. So like we already mentioned here, Countess Elizabeth Bathory did actually exist. However, for the perspective of the film, her story takes place in New Orleans, whereas historically she was located in Hungary, which I guess was just for the fact that they could go to her house to actually defeat the evil, even though they didn't actually do it.
Well, also, it was a different person.
Yeah, exactly. I do love the fact that there is trivia that just says Disney's only slasher movie, and that's just such a funny thing to be able to say.
Tagline.
Because technically,
Bring it back,
it is true.
Bring it out of the vault, Disney. You won't.
So apparently, they say this is a video game reference here. The old-fashioned camera that Abigail uses in the beginning of the film is a reference to the popular Fatal Frame, series of horror survival games upon which the Stay Alive concept is partially based. So I guess camera stuff, which again, it's pretty loose connection to it. It's not necessarily a direct thing.
I see it.
The filmmakers wanted an R rating, but the studio insisted the film be cut to a PG-13. That's Mickey Rat saying that.
I didn't see that coming at all.
The director's cut later restored 15 minutes of footage that was removed to avoid an R rating. Again, how does putting the developer, the programmer of the game, give it an R rating? It doesn't make any sense. That
doesn't make any sense.
I would have liked it a lot more, especially since we have developers as guests on the podcast.
I know, right?
Because I was going to be like, what did you think of their depiction of a developer? Well, he didn't exist. He was gone, so that was their first mistake.
I think it was actually the pee scene.
The piss scene in the bathroom and the toilet paper flashback.
Yeah, that was what did it.
And the last one I have just says the mansion that appears in the video game at the beginning of the movie is a carbon copy of the one where the action Sega's 1996 light gun shooter, The House of the Dead,
I
1996.
literally
takes
just
place.
referenced that.
Yep.
Literally, like
It was a reference.
rewind 10 minutes.
100%
I just said House of the Dead.
carbon copy model of the
I
thing.
knew it. I felt
Okay.
it.
Yes. But so that is Stay Alive from 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Any other final thoughts on the movie, you guys?
Yeah, I think if you wanted to rate it like a video game, you'd
Oh,
have
yeah.
to give it like at least a 9 out of 10 because
At
the
least.
graphics were really good.
fair,
Yeah.
It
fair.
was very realistic.
Not a lot of
looking.
water.
Not a lot of water, but like
Ray tracing.
Did you see?
order.
Did the movie like cut out at any point, or did it like stop working or functioning at any
No,
time?
it worked as
No, so it's at
intended.
least
Flawless.
a 7 out of 10 there.
Stable.
IGN would give it a 7 right now.
You gotta get a 7 right out of the gate. And the story, well, there were characters.
There were characters.
There were things that happened in it.
Yep.
And there was lore.
There was
And
lore.
there was lore, and
lore.
there's more lore that you could make YouTube videos about.
There was.
So
That we
That's
had
like
to,
a 10
Is
out
that
of
a
10
part
to
of what
me.
makes games good now? Is the potential to create content off of it?
absolutely.
Wild.
You have no idea how real that is. Though.
That's so crazy. That's insane.
Man, that was good. You must be. Do you work in the game
Do you
industry?
guys from like the game industry or
What are
something?
you talking about?
You don't strike me as gamers, but now I'm convinced that might be the case.
well, remember, we are
No.
video games. So
They-
that's what
yes.
that's so we know
We are
intimately.
We've brought video games onto our podcast.
That's right. We did establish that in the first 5 minutes.
But anything else to tell us about your upcoming things? So we obviously have Forbidden Solitaire coming up and such. We want people to be playing that.
Right.
Go and wishlist it. Go
Yeah.
on. You can
Oh,
wishlist
yes,
it on
please.
Steam,
Now that I've
right?
seen this, I know we have to make some edits to Forbidden Solitaire to
Yes.
make sure that there's no connection to how the game got made, and we make the rules more inconsistent because this 10 out of 10 movie that we just watched
Yes.
is changed my mind on.
I mean, they got
That's
what?
a
Like
model.
they got
It's the model.
27 million? Is that right?
Yeah, they made $27
$27 million. So with that premise
yeah,
in
I mean,
mind,
that we would be stupid not to
it's,
follow it.
it sells itself.
Yeah. Wish list Forbidden Solitaire on
Do it.
Steam.
We command thee.
And then also wish list our other game that we have coming out at some point. Please insert disc, which
Yes.
is a game about playing a haunted PS2, basically.
Wonderful.
Such a cool idea.
You're stuck in the menus of the PS2 . So if the menus ever
Which-
gave you nightmares,
Oh
There's
my God.
something a little bit
I can hear
haunting about
that.
them.
I can hear that. The PS2. You know that sound?
Yeah.
And every time my disc wouldn't work, for some reason, I would put it on and it would go away, and the PlayStation boom, would never come up.
No.
And then it would go, it'd come back. Oh, I'm feeling it.
Good times.
I'm already scared of
But
that
a
game.
wonderful concept for a horror game. It sounds really neat.
It'll take me right back to my basement growing up. Oh my God.
Red Screen of Death, the game.
Yes.
the game, absolutely. Sorry,
I can't
Oh, yeah.
follow this.
No,
This
you're
is
fine.
so-
You're fine.
Ditto to everything.
Ditto to everything.
No, that's great.
So
It was a good time.
we jumped in line for this.
Yes, thank you.
Our next episode was supposed to be about another movie. So for our next episode, Derek, we will be going back to Terror at Blood Fart Lake from
Oh, my
2009. This one was a fan submission.
Blood Fart
Blood
Lake.
Fart
Wow.
Lake.
Wow, that
From 2009.
Oh,
Yeah, we
boy.
thought the same thing, but we've never had a fan submission quite this way. So formally, they went through the right thing. So we have to watch
We've
it.
had a lot
gotta
of
do
fans
it.
like ask us to watch things, but normally they've been people we know.
Yeah, just
this
tell
was
us
just
in
some
person.
random guy. So we're like, we have to watch this.
Yeah.
you're not just some random guy. We
No.
love you dearly. I
You're,
know
you're from
listening right
Maine,
now.
and thank you for listening to all of our stuff and suggesting this movie that we are going to watch.
Sorry we
just
didn't watch
for
it
you.
this week. Next,
We'll be
week,
getting
guys.
to it. I know you were super excited about it, but yeah, that is Terror at Blood Fart Lake. If you two were curious to hear about this one, the premise just goes: college students go to a friend's cabin for a sex-filled weekend and are hunted by the Scarecrow Killer.
Oh,
That's it.
wow.
All right.
That's it. That's
I
it.
mean, that sounds amazing.
Blood Fart Lake.
No, yeah.
A wild journey.
With the name like Blood Fart Lake, how can you go wrong?
Honestly, though.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
where
correct.
where can people find
Yeah,
you guys?
where can people get to
Obviously
you
Steam.
guys?
Oh, yeah.
Any-
Steam, Patreon, NightSignalEntertainment.com. I'm just gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna pitch that because we have a newsletter and we're trying to, in general, continue to build an audience on a place where they can't just be whisked away. Your audience can't just be whisked away from you.
That's pretty good, actually.
Because
really
this it keeps happening, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just
in the
so,
sense of
yes,
the world.
You
Nice
skinnamarink me on your
signal
fucking website.
Wait, what's going on
You
the website?
skinnamarink me on your website. That's the first thing.
I got skinnamarink. Dang.
Yeah, all the valid
Yeah.
links are over there. Go and go watch our stuff and play our games over there.
Absolutely. Check them out.
I mean,
Derek
we
and I have
definitely
played
will.
just a teeny bit. We will be playing a lot more of at least Home Safety Hotline.
We are going to play through
Yeah.
the entirety of Home Safety
Yeah,
Hotline.
but also
and
like you guys
I wanna
have like
play Night
several
Signal,
games that we
too.
just definitely want to check out. Night Signal also looks really fun,
Yeah.
and so I'm looking forward to playing some of those. I also noticed like there were some other things I noticed you guys had worked on. Like I noticed you made like a wonderful day for fishing. Is that what that one is?
Yeah.
It seems just like a nice day on a boat and you're catching some eerie looking fish. Like I feel like that could also be a fun one for us to check out. But so we'll be playing a lot more stuff. But yeah, you, the listener, go out and check out Night Signal Entertainment.
Please.
See what they've got out already. Go check out even more stuff of what they got because it's really fun stuff. And thank you guys so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Thank you for
It's been
having
it's
us.
been a
Yeah,
wonderful
It's been
time
so much
having
fun.
you.
Hopefully we have you back on in the future. Maybe
Yeah.
when
yeah.
you get
It was fun.
when you get your date for Forbidden Solitaire, like when that's coming
sure.
out, maybe we bring you back on.
Yeah.
Do
We'll,
another-
That'd be fun.
we can definitely
we can play
plug that for
Solitaire
sure.
on stream. That's a great
four-man a game made to be played solitarily with four people.
Are you saying it can't be done?
That's the
Wait,
scariest part about
all
it.
games are multiplayer games. I
Yes,
thought-
that's
didn't
true,
you learn
exactly.
We will
that, or-
play Solitaire online with each other.
Yes.
With
in the
one
same
disc
room.
copy.
Make it
Yes.
happen.
One disc copy.
But so if you're looking for any of us on social medias, you probably know where we're at already. But we're on Instagram at _was_horrible, Twitter at TWH Podcast, Facebook at That Was Horrible Podcast, YouTube at That Was Horrible, and TikTok at That Was Horrible. We are
us.
all over the places there. But thank you so much for joining us
Yeah.
here. Any closing statements from you, Derek?
I would just like to say the closing prayer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone join hands in prayers. We do every episode.
So we do this stupid thing at the end of our episode where we say Garfield be with you and then stay spooky. If you would like to join with us,
So yes,
everybody have a
So,
wonderful week. And
as always, Garfield be with you. Stay
Stay
spooky.
spooky.
Goodbye.